time I'll call to order the September 17, 2024 meeting of the Community Redevelopment Agency. This time we'll move to item 1 on the agenda. Excuse me, item 2 on the agenda, approval of the minutes.
Approve the minutes of the August 12, 2024 CRA meeting as submitted and written submission by the city clerk.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. This time we'll move to item 3 on the agenda, citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda today. Are there any citizens to be heard?
I found a video. I thought it was basically telephone.
Agency. Chances are you haven't, but chances are you're paying for one. CRAs were meant to pay for cleaning up slums and blighted neighborhoods. Instead, they became another vehicle for local government to take your money and spend it on their pet projects. There are 67 counties in Florida and 224 active CRAs. Some counties like Polk, Miami-Dade, and Pinellas have more than 10 CRAs. That's 10 entities taking incremental tax gain by some local governments from the increased value of property in the CRA. Why does this happen? Because CRAs are governed by the same people that create them. 70% of CRAs are governed by a board similar to the local government that oversees them. And it gets worse. In 2015, CRAs in Florida reported $600 million in revenues, over $600 million in expenditures, and $715 million in debt. And to make matters worse, during the last 10 years, CRAs issued almost $1.4 billion in bonds. And most recent studies can't even show whether or not the CRAs are working. That's why your Florida House is introducing legislation again this year to put us.
So that was in 2017 when that video came out. And after that, in 2019, the Florida legislature passed some laws which tighten the control oversight of CRAs. Basically, you guys have to go to 4 hours of ethic training. You guys have to have more accounting stuff and some other things. New CRAs have to have an advisory board, but old CRAs don't. Now, I've been in the Eastgate. I've lived there for 15 years. I was there when the Eastgate, basically in 2012, when we started with the Mercado and the Festival Course Street Market area. The board in 2017 approved that. I think, I don't know if you guys were on it then, and then in 2019, you guys backtracked and tried to kill it and turn it into like a gathering space, but you didn't kill the street market that was around it. There's a street market that surrounds the Mercado area, and that has been, no one, you can see it from space. I can show you pictures of it. So this is, let's see, where are we? This is where it is. It's down, let's see, I gotta go to my albums. But it's up there. I'll show it in the next one, in the next thing. So basically what you guys have done is you've taken all the CRA money, the county TIF since 2019 when you guys redid your CRA development plan and put it all toward developers. And any community projects you've thrown out the door. My economic zone that was there is gone. I'll bring that up too. So.
Are there any other citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda?
Thank you. I'm Mr. Haluba. Downtown has some revitalization issues. Many people don't want to come down here for a perceived, bad rap that downtown has. But in no small part, it's because of people like Wallach, Gandy, and Mr. Late to the Party, Slaughter. All three of them are overseeing a police department that the public can't trust. 3 police officers arrested this year alone We've got a city manager who can't or won't do anything about it. So redevelopment, why don't we start with some new people? Ms. Texera, have you fired a city manager lately? Maybe you should think about it.
Are there any other citizens to be heard on items not on the agenda?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Barbara Sori Love, and I'm familiar with the city manager and Ms. Texera, and I don't think I've met the mayor before. But I'm here representing my own nonprofit, Clearwater African American Historical and Memorial Foundation. And I'm going to reread the information that I presented in the evening council meeting on January 18, 2024. And this is on the Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, which is located on 409 Madison Avenue in Clearwater. And I am asking, we have come to ask the city council to purchase the historic Friendship Missionary Baptist Church built in 1939, located on 409 South Madison Avenue, Clearwater, and place it under the auspices of the Downtown Clearwater Prospect Lake CRA. And the asking price, originally it was, the asking price was $745,000. Now it's $695,000. Well, in the meantime, I've met with Mr. Jesus, and I came today because I thought I would get a better response because he's not answering my emails prompt enough. So I'm here today with my consultant, Ms. Joyce Cooper, and we appreciate the opportunity. My family home was located on 1161 Gould Street, 2 doors down east of Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. I have fond memories of attending the church as a young girl, and the purpose would be to preserve the church for historic preservation, and there's also an opportunity probably to provide a place for homeless persons to have a safe place to live. Because if you've seen the property, there's the sanctuary, and on the other side of the sanctuary is a two-story, well, it used to be the parsonage, and I'm not sure what the downstairs was. Anyway, for posterity, we are asking the city council to purchase the historic Friendship Missionary Baptist Church and place it under the auspices of the Downtown Clearwater Prospect Lake CRA. Thank you for your time and fairness to make Clearwater a better place to live and play for all of its citizens. And I want to also add that we are in the process of putting together our strategic plan. And when I get that done or finished within maybe the next 2 weeks, hopefully Mr. Jesus will have a moment to sit down and speak with me today or then. And that's basically it. Are there any questions for me? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gets the card.
I do.
Over here, yeah. Thank you. Are there any other citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda today? Seeing none, we'll move to item 4.1 on the agenda.
Approve the interlocal agreement with the Downtown Development Board to provide personnel administrative management services during the fiscal year 2024-2025 in the amount of $87,309, refund the CRA tax increment fee of $381,027, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Jesus Nino, CRA Executive Director. For the record, I won't repeat all that since it's eloquently stated. So with that, this agreement is basically the same as prior years. The staff is recommending approval of the amount that was stated by the city clerk.
Does anyone here from the public desire to speak to agenda item 4.1?
My name is Kathy Flaherty, and I'm not against the Downtown Development Board, and I'm not against the contract. I'm just against what it does sort of to my part of the CRA, all right? And one thing I've been trying to figure out for like 5 years, I've been coming up every time on this renewal, is why it's called a refund. It makes no sense to me because I don't think the Downtown Development Board's increment tax, their tax that they do, is affected by the CRA. So they have in their contract, it says Florida statute requires all taxing authorities, it says all taxing authorities to make an annual appropriation to the CRA. But when you go to the statute says for ones that carry out community redevelopment. So if you go to taxing authorities on your tax bill, if you look at it downtown, these are the taxing authorities. General fund, health department, EMS, state schools, state board, Clearwater, all these things, according to the DDB contract, you would be receiving tips from all of those taxing authorities. That's not true. You only receive tips from developing authorities, and the only ones that develop are the city and the county. The Downtown Development Board, years ago, back in '93, yes, they did have some development things, but there was a law that changed that. All they do, the Downtown Development Board, is give advice, and they can self-promote. So what this contract is it takes restricted CRA TIF funds, turns them into flexible funds where you guys can just spend them the way you want. Now, before, the DDB was a separate entity. Last year, you guys took it over. So now you guys are the DDB. So right now, you are just approving to pay yourself. And I think that's a conflict of interest. I would think that is an ethical thing that you would have had to address in your 4 hours of ethical training that the new state laws approved. So I think by taking over the DDB last year, you made it so you can't contract with the DDB anymore. But you can't give the DDB funds anymore. You're trustees for a CRA fund. You're trustees for my community. You're not trustees for the DDB funds. They don't contribute. Their members pay income taxes. They pay property taxes. You're refunding their property taxes to the DDB. The DDB doesn't collect funds and pay the CRA. All right? So all this does, it just takes restricted funds that could be going to actually doing something about blight in my community. You know? And just gives it to you to pay for advice, or you can, what are you going to advise yourself? You know? Seriously, how do you advise yourself? You're paying yourself to advise yourself. 5 of you are on the board. Raise your hand if you are on the DDB board. All right, 1 person admitted he was on the DDB.
Thank you.
2.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else here to speak to agenda item 4.1? Seeing none, is there any council discussion? Trustee discussion? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 4.1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Agenda item 4.2.
Approve an interlocal agreement between the Clearwater Community Redevelopment Agency and the City of Clearwater to provide CRA funding in fiscal year 2024-2025 in the amount of $282,433.02 to underwrite the cost of additional community policing services by the Clearwater Police Department and the downtown CRA to address quality of life issues, drug dealing, and homelessness, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same.
Thank you again. Jesus Nino, Executive Director for the CRA. Like the city clerk stated, this is a request for approval of the interlocal agreement between the city and the CRA for funding for the police department. I do want to state for the record here that all the other communities that I've worked for in the past, I'm pretty impressed by the work that the police department does in our downtown. I love the way they engage those business owners, the residents, and how they just deal with issues out on the streets. So staff is requesting approval of this, and in addition, we do have Lieutenant Baginski here in the audience, so if you have any questions for him, he's here as well.
Does anyone here from the public desire to speak to agenda item 4.2?
Hi, Mr. Danby. Well, in contrast to what we heard, I'm not impressed by very much that Clearwater Police does. They've got their hand out to receive more funds in every method and way possible. The leadership of Clearwater Police obviously doesn't have a hand on what's going on, given recent events. We've got a police chief who retires and gets his full retirement along with the former one sitting next to him. You know, it's too much money going to Clearwater Police, especially given what's gone on. There's no good management happening when there's so many Clearwater police officers getting arrested. And that's just the stuff that, you know, we know about. Getting a letter, you know, from Clearwater Police as a police officer to straighten themselves up is a very, very common occurrence. Except when something big happens, like covering for drug dealers, then nobody hears anything about it. Not one of you has made a public statement about it. And Mr. Rector, I've asked you to do so on numerous occasions. Why can't you do that? There they are, two of them sitting right there, the two biggest problems with Clearwater Police. And you're happy with what's going on downtown? They arrest homeless people and they take them to jail. That's what they do. That's what we want? And you wonder why people don't go downtown? You know? I guess I could be, you know, confused for a homeless person sometimes, you know? That's another reason why people don't go downtown, is these two clowns sitting right here. Yeah, Gandhi, you.
Treasurer, comments to the trustees, please. Thank you. Anyone else here desire to speak to agenda item 4.2?
Kathy Flaherty, live in the Eastgate, and I had a bike shop for about 15 years. I sold it, my husband passed away. But I used to always be very pro-police. I was always supporting you guys doing this, but nothing ever got done, so I was like, we need good police. But the reason we didn't get anything done is I couldn't pull an article up. I could get this. The detective of giving drug traffickers the information. If you go, there's mug shots of the people that were affiliated with this guy, your police department guy. Those are the ones I've been complaining about for the past 10 years when I would go before the council and talk about the drug dealers and the pimps and the prostitutes. They were working for that guy. They were the same people. And as soon as this guy left, I swear to God that area is clean now. All right? I don't see the same people driving and doing all. You guys, this guy was promoting it and no one noticed? Seriously. I mean, and then the guy you guys assigned up there at one time, the one prior to the person up there now, was really good. He actually like hung signs and we went door to door and he did stuff. The guy that's in there now was the guy that was in there before the other guy, and nothing. I never see him up there. I tried to get his. He gave me his number so I could text if I saw some stuff. But when I asked him for it, he asked me if I was gonna call him drunk, like 3 o'clock in the morning, drinking or something. I don't drink. I wouldn't call anybody at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, there were drug dealers and people, and to call the non-emergency number is a joke because it takes forever. So I got with one person where I could just text a picture if there were a drug dealer or there was a pimp or something, you know, and they would come up and look at it. It was really good. And now I know that why nothing got happened was this. I mean, so I don't trust the police anymore. I don't know, why should we pay you guys another $250,000 to police us? I don't see any problems up there now. I mean, I'm not as active because I don't have the shop, but I still walk around at like 6 in the morning and I don't see them up there. I see, you know, I don't know. So I'm on the fence with this one. If they actually do, I don't know, come clean and start doing like showing up. And I would like somebody else up there in that Eastgate area. That's one thing I could use. All right, thank you.
Anyone else here desire to speak to agenda item 4.2? Is there any council discussion on this item? Hearing seeing none, is there a motion?
Move to approve agenda item 4.2.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Agenda item 4.3.
Approve an interlocal agreement between the City of Clearwater and the Community Redevelopment Agency to provide staffing and administrative services for the CRA in the amount not to exceed $1,060,401 and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same.
Thank you again, Jesus Nino, for the record. This interlocal agreement allows city staff, which is us, the CRA staff, to do work for the Community Redevelopment Agency. Similar to past years, the services are usually staff time in addition to other city services, PD, IT, administration. So with that, staff is recommending approval of this interlocal agreement.
Does anyone here from the public desire to speak to agenda item 4.3? Hearing seeing none, is there any council discussion? Hearing seeing none, is there a motion?
Move to approve agenda item 4.3.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Agenda item 4.4.
This next item is the downtown revitalization update. This is your item that you have reoccurring every month on the agenda. So staff is here for support if you need us, economic development and CRA.
Does anyone here from the public desire to speak to, well, actually, this is just an update, so we don't have public comment on this. Is there council discussion or comments for the director?
Just if there's any significant update, I'd appreciate hearing it now.
We do have a few items. I was going to bring them up in the director's report, but they do basically align with the downtown revitalization. I do want to state that staff has been very aggressive as far as identifying all the vacant properties and vacant units in the downtown. Mr. Phil here has done tremendous work out there in addition to contacting all of those property owners that own those vacant units and particular properties. So staff is continuing to do, in addition, the wellness checks for the existing tenants that are already there, and we're going to continue to do that very aggressively. In addition, we do have other projects that we're initiating, have already been initiated. For instance, identifying, this is for the entire CRA plus the city, identifying all vacant properties that are owned by the city and the CRA, in addition to seeing how we're going to surplus those properties and having a plan ready for that. So the staff here is putting together those scopes of work and continuing to do that work. In addition, we have the mobile vending project that staff will be bringing back to you, hopefully in the next meeting, to give you an update on where we're at with that. And we also had a community meeting with the downtown businesses on that particular project, and pretty positive feedback, but we did get some feedback and we're going to implement it into the entire process. With that, staff is here for support.
Okay. Questions, comments from the trustees?
I was asked to speak at the Downtown Merchants Association following their meeting with you, and one of the consistent feedback that I got was that they really appreciate the amount of involvement from the staff. They feel they're being heard. They had wonderful things about the whole team, and so I want to thank you guys for the level of engagement and how you made them feel heard, and I appreciate all your hard work.
That's a monthly thing now where staff is meeting with the downtown merchants in addition to also attending their downtown merchant meetings.
Yeah, I have a question, and maybe this isn't the appropriate time, but I'm just wondering at some point if we could have an update on a couple properties downtown, the CMA lot, the old firehouse, and the current transportation property. Doesn't obviously have to be at this point, just throwing that out there, but if we could get an update maybe on the next one on current thoughts, current plans, what this council might think about those properties.
Definitely, and if there is any staff here that has some update on that, they can come up and pretty much give you the update, but if not, then we'll bring it back to you.
Yeah, I thought we knew, what the plan was for those, but city manager might weigh in.
Well, so somewhat on that note, but I did want to also give kudos to the staff in terms of things that we're working on for the revitalization of downtown, and that is working on the county project. And so CBRE is the consultant that has been hired by the county, and they are starting to make requests of staff. I got one on Friday. Staff turned around and had an answer to that on Friday, so that when we had our meeting today, we could provide that. And that list was active properties that the city owns, to include in the sequencing and the mapping that's going to be used when they go out to bid for this project. So the staff has been working on that as well, and that information was provided to CBRE on Friday. So they're working on that. But we can certainly, in addition to that type of a thing, provide a report on what we have going on for those.
In short, I think the plan is, for now, just to see whether or not those three properties fit within the overall plan for redevelopment of the county properties. So it's very early to see. We're just providing information to the county's real estate professionals to just to analyze that, to see if it makes sense to somehow make our three parcels part of that process. Okay. Any other questions? I just got two things. I want to echo what they've said about the engagement with the business owners. It's really, really important. What I've said before continues to be my strong feeling is that you know, we've had businesses obviously come and go from downtown Clearwater. It's really important that the community, not just the city staff, not just the CRA team, all of us, the entire community, get behind these businesses that have recently opened and support them and hear great things about the Nash Keys and how the community is already doing that. But we've got several other restaurants down there, and I think continue to work with them and the CRA team to understand, you know, how that's going, whether or not we need to help them generate community support for their businesses. If you would just communicate with them and then share that with us. The five of us have already been, but will continue to be advocates for those businesses and trying to make them successful. And the second thing that you alluded to is just this inventory of what's available. You know, I've often described Clearwater as a blank canvas, but particularly downtown. But we need to know, you know, what could be opportunities that we could leverage, what vacant or underutilized properties are part of the mix where we could put it forward. And that's, we know the three city properties, but there are many other properties. It's been well known in the news story that been sitting vacant for a long time, and we need to figure out, you know, what the interest level is of those property owners in doing something with their property, and then motivating them or inspiring them to do something with them. But the first step is to know what we have, and I think conversations we've had with the city manager, that's maybe been a little hit and miss up to the point where, you know, she took over and you took over. But hopefully we can get there pretty soon, because I really think that's a very important first step, is understanding who owns what, so we can talk directly with property owners and see who's interested in collaborating with us to make those properties thrive and who's not. But first we have to know, you know, what the lay of the land is, at least starting with the CRA first, and hopefully, you know, we'll continue your progress on this. Realize a big project, but I think it's an important first step to take an inventory of what's available to us. So, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, and I just kind of echo what the mayor said. You know, this is a great opportunity. We've been thinking about it for a long time with the county moving out on their properties, and so doing the inventories, really, I like that direction we're going in, because we can only control what we can control. The rest of it, we hope that'll inspire some of these other property owners, as the mayor said, maybe come in and start doing some economic value to their property, but we can't force that. So, but we certainly can deal with the ones that we have control over, and I think that's the right direction. So I'm happy that it's moving forward.
We'll bring you a presentation on that at the next meeting. We'll run that presentation by the city manager. You get her feedback in addition to other staff, then at the next meeting, we'll present it to you.
Any other comments on this agenda item or questions? With that, we move to item 4.5.
Thank you. This is just an update, a very high-level update on the downtown Osceola garage. Again, that fits into your discussion with the revitalization of the downtown. This particular garage is on basically CRA property that was purchased back in 2022 for $1.8 million. And it was built, basically, it came out of the parking studies that was generated back in 2018 by the city. And in 2021, through a partnership with Peace Memorial Church. We entered into an agreement for them to sell us the property, and that's where the CRA stepped in and purchased the property. To date, the scope of work is to build a 7-story parking garage with 377 spaces and 10,000 square feet of commercial wraparound on Osceola Avenue. That's what's really exciting to me as a CRA director, that it's not just a parking garage, and I do have the elevations here if you have not seen them yet. The construction or the design of the actual garage, let me get her up here.
I won't get into it too much because it is a work session agenda item here this
Yes, sir.
afternoon. So I think there's going to be a lot of discussion, a lot of detail by the folks actually doing the construction.
I'll wrap it up then.
At a very high level for right
Yes.
now, if you could, yeah.
Definitely, but it's exciting for a CRA director that it does have that component for mixed use in it. Was that staff, this is just kind of just letting you know that we're moving forward with this, the city side, and Public Works is here to answer any questions if you have those questions, and we're here for you in the afternoon as well.
Okay, any comments or questions regarding this agenda item 4.5? No? Okay, we'll move to item 5, Director's Report.
Don't have too much to add, except that we, in the North Greenwood Community Redevelopment area, we're excited that last week we had our first Citizens Advisory Committee. I was blown away as far as the new CAC members on how they just want to get involved in their community and just make change out there in the North Greenwood area. So the first meeting was mostly almost like an orientation where we give them a high-level CRA 101 type training, also training on the Florida Sunshine Laws, and in addition to kind of going over the budgets and their community redevelopment area plans. So we're hoping to keep that momentum with them as far as keeping them excited, and in the next meeting, hopefully we'll have some items for them to kind of look at and provide a recommendation on. In addition, the North Greenwood area grants that we have in place, staff is pretty aggressive with those grants. And I think we've met with over 20 people as far as residential grants. We're meeting with business people as far as try to help them with their business revitalization. That includes, in addition to the downtown, we have our new grant, and we're working with many, hopefully, applicants that will be successful in going through our grant process. That was the update for now.
Any questions or comments for the director? Seeing none, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And with that, we will adjourn the September 16 meeting of the Community Redevelopment Agency. She ready? Yeah. Okay. It's time we'll call to order the September 16, 2024 work session of the Clearwater City Council. Mr. Luba? This time we'll move to item 2.1 on the agenda, and at this time I'd like to welcome our State Senator Ed Hooper to give a presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members, City Attorney, Ms. Call, Ms. Boyer, Chief, I still call you Chief. I gotta start coming to more CRA meetings. I didn't know they were this exciting. I've been missing the boat. I'm gonna carve out more time to make sure that I get here. It's an honor to be here before you to give you a very brief update on what has happened, but more importantly, what I see coming with the election in 50 days for those of us that are counting, and going forward into the next session. What I see as being important is not only going to impact you the city, but it's going to impact all of us and the entire state. And I guess on November the 5th, the impact on the entire nation will be decided by the voters, which is the way it's supposed to be. The Florida legislature has one requirement by Constitution: to pass a balanced budget. We so wish our federal partners had that same restriction, but they do not. Anything beyond a balanced budget in that 60-day session is just stuff. A lot of policy bills, but that's what we do. This year, starting in January 1st, the legislature passed a budget of $117.46 billion. After the governor's veto exercise, he took almost $1 billion off of that. So the current state operating budget is $116.5 billion. Now, where do we spend all that money? We did a lot of things that affect me, affect you, affect all these nice people that are here today. 1.5 billion of that was in broad-based tax relief. That's everything from eliminating permanently sales tax on diapers, infant needs, hygiene products forever, to reducing the business rent tax, which used to be 6%. It's now down to 2%, and I think after the next session, we will join 49 other states that do not charge sales tax on long-term leases for commercial properties. That's a big deal. That's a job creator. We put aside some reserves. We added $10 billion to our reserve fund for a total of $16 billion. Now, I get asked a lot, why do you need such a large pool of money? Think about the folks 2 years ago in Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach, that their way of life was destroyed. Eventually, FEMA shows up with a checkbook, but they don't come the next day. And if you're on an island cut off from getting across a bridge that's destroyed, somebody has to take action immediately and get the help to those communities who have just been devastated. That's where $16 billion comes in handy. We can spend that money immediately. We can, when FEMA decides to get their act together and come reimburse the local government, the state government, we've already fronted that money. We can take FEMA's check and put it back in our reserve account and be ready for the next disaster. I think that's important, that some states do not have that ability. They are solely dependent on the federal government coming and bailing them out. I don't trust the federal government to do that quickly. I trust them not to do it quickly. So that gives me some comfort to know that large reserve fund is sitting there for a good reason, and a good reason only. We had, I'm going to talk about, when I talk about what's going forward, I know nobody cares about property tax rates, property insurance rates. Nobody cares about their auto insurance rates. And I'm certain if you're an HOA or a condo, you really might not even know that fees are going up to the crisis level, and we're going to address that. But I want to start with housing. The legislature made an investment this year, the current budget year, in housing, $100 million for our Florida Hometown Hero program. That's $25,000 of down payment and closing costs assistance for any of your employees who work in this beautiful city that may want to buy a house in this city. That program is designed to make sure that if you live in a city where you work, we want you to buy a home in that community and support your community. We also front-loaded some parts of this beautiful state don't have any broadband capacity. So $100 million has gone mostly for the Panhandle to at least have every Floridian have access to broadband capability. $14 billion dedicated to the State Transportation Trust Fund to make sure that for our state roads, our interstate, our turnpikes, we can adequately keep those not only up to date and repaired, but any new opportunities that come along. And we also fund some money through the local programs that impact you, the cities and the counties, of making sure that if you have roads in need, that there's a way for us to fund those needs also. The Live Local Act is $174 million to the State Housing Initiative, which is the SHIP, and $84 million for rental assistance predominantly for seniors, that come out of the Sadowski Trust Fund for affordable housing. Twice we have funded the My Safe Florida Home Program, first for $100 million, secondly for $200 million. Those funds disappear in about 1 week. And when people are funded with that help to harden their home, everybody that gets that award and spends that money the appropriate way, they're enjoying just about a 20% reduction in their property insurance premium. Big deal. We will fund it again. We have to. It's probably been the most successful program the state has ever initiated. Those are kind of highlights of where we're sitting today with a budget that started July 1st. Now, more importantly, what's going to happen when we go back to Tallahassee on December the 9th and start doing things that impact all of us, hopefully in a positive way. The first thing I'm sure we're going to do is we're going to deal with property insurance. You know, 2 sessions ago, we made sweeping tort reform policy that we were told, if you do this, premiums are going to drop like a rock. I ain't seen that rock yet, and you haven't either. There are changes occurring. The week after that bill was passed, before it went into implementation, 200,000 lawsuits were filed in 1 week to get in under the guideline of the extra time that that industry had to file lawsuits and hire their expert witnesses and do what they had to do. Those are still working their way through the courts and are going to be that way for probably another 6-8 months. When that process is finalized, that will make a difference. Secondly, today, there are 9 new companies that have come into the state and are writing policies and taking policies out of Citizens Insurance. They understand, yes, there's risk, but we think that the state has taken the appropriate action to start the process of us being willing to at least expose ourselves and write in this industry. For the first time in 2 decades, the reinsurance market that all insurance companies buy to protect themselves has dropped. Rates have gone down for the first time in almost two entire decades. So that's an important thing. The state took a step forward with eliminating the premium tax on property policies that will save each of you about 4% on your premium. So it's starting to do what it was designed to do. Now, we'll all knock on wood and hope we can get to November 30th without a devastating storm impacting our state at all. That sort of clears the slate and makes a difference. So let's all hope that it's nice that we share those things with other countries and other continents, and it'd be nice not to have them at all, but it's coming. The coast of North and South Carolina are in the crosshairs right as we speak of a tropical storm that will dump hopefully not as much rain as we've had in the last 2 weeks. So along with property insurance, I've been speaking with a lot of insurers who write auto insurance. And they say that rate system has peaked and all the policies are starting to come back down. And a lot of the reason the rates have gone up is all of our cars have more electronics and gadgets on them than ever before, and those things cost money. You know, your car's got fancy stuff. We're all going to pay more than I would like to be comfortable with in what's going to happen with auto insurance, but it is peaked, and every company I've spoke to, every agent says the rates are now coming down, not fast, but they're tracking downward, and it should continue to do so. There's a crisis in this state in the condo world and the HOA world. It was never intended to be a crisis, but 98 people died when a building collapsed while they were sleeping. And after that collapse, we found 5 other buildings that were deemed structurally unsound, all on the East Coast, and were evacuated. Those people, they can't go back to their home. A hurricane devastated about 4 buildings on Daytona Beach that are now structurally unsound. They can't be re-inhabited. Those are going to have to be knocked down and rebuilt because the structures were washed away. To take that action And as a former owner of a condo, every year I voted to waive full funding of reserves. I didn't want my monthly premium to go, my monthly HO fee to go up, so we all waived reserves. And it's happened all over the state. More so in southeast Florida than the rest of the state. There are buildings there that have no reserves, zero. And all of a sudden, their roof needs replacing. All of a sudden now, by January 2025, they're gonna have to have a structural engineer or an architect come in and do an analysis of the structural integrity of that building. We're gonna make any building over 2 stories, have that analysis done at 30 years, 20 years if you're within so many miles of saltwater coastline, and then every 20 years afterwards. None of us want to have 98 or more or less lives on our hands because a building is so structurally unsound that people die while they're sleeping. We may have to change that date of January 2025. We have condos that are unsellable. We have people that are losing their homes. They can't, I've heard reports of monthly condo fees going up $800 a month over what they were originally paying because we require 4 important areas of reserves to be fully funded. We may have to reevaluate that 4 and call it roofing and structural and not worry about the other 2. And that will be on the condo associations, their elected officers, to do what they need to do. But our office hears every day from a variety of homeowners associations and condo associations who are struggling mightily, and the citizens are having to pay that freight that cannot, especially our senior citizens on a fixed income. Our new incoming president is a fine man, Senator Albritton from Wauchula in Hardee County. I've been to Wauchula. It ain't Clearwater, but I've been there. It is a charming little city and a different way of life than what we enjoy here. He's a citrus farmer by trade, and citrus used to be the #1 industry in the state of Florida, and now it's not. I don't even think it's in the top 5. He aims to change that. He is very intent on 3 things, and he tells us this all the time. You may not care about agriculture, but if you eat, you're involved in agriculture, so get over it. He's gonna focus a lot on our agriculture industry, our citrus industry, and even more importantly, our water availability and water quality. That water which we use every day to bathe and drink, and that water quality which flows through our creeks, rivers, streams, and Everglades, and make sure that the environment is not harmed, that we clean up our environment, we convert as many septic tanks as we can to advanced wastewater treatment plants to make sure that that is taken care of. That is what I know the Senate priority is going to be. The incoming House Speaker is a fine young man from Miami-Dade County. His priorities will be totally different, but they get along well. So in November the 5th, there'll be a slate of new House members and new Senate members, and everybody comes to Tallahassee wanting to make a difference. If you're in the House, you don't have any chance. If you're in the Senate, you got a slight chance if you're new. But it's going to be an exciting time, and I'm excited to let you know that for at least for the next 2 years, I will chair the Budget Committee in the Florida Senate, which will be crafting a budget for that $117 billion. And my House counterpart, Representative Lawrence McClure, is a Hillsborough County resident. So Tampa Bay is going to at least be treated fairly in the budget process. We don't want to be treated extraordinarily high. We don't want to be mistreated. We just want to be treated fair, which is a concept that some of our southeastern counties have not had to use that exercise too much. They want it all. And so I think that this will be 2 years that we can at least count on fair treatment. The state is in good shape. We just paid off $500 million of state debt, which we don't have much of. Our bond ratings are all AAA rated from every agency that issues a rating. Again, we have adequate reserves. Our tourism is setting records every year. We're up to 140 million out-of-state tourists that come see us every year, and they're clogging up our roads. That doesn't count the 800 people a day that decide to move here, and that doesn't count all the in-state tourism activity that all of us use and enjoy, that we see what other parts of Florida have to offer us. So Florida is rocking and rolling, hopefully in a good way most of the time. Mayor, I mean, it's great that we're going to keep our space industry headquartered here. That's on the other side of the coast, but there are companies in this county that build things for rockets and spaceships. Every county in Florida has some component of industry that supplies the space industry with some part of those rockets and modules. So it's robust. Our military, in this county, we probably do more military manufacturing than maybe any other state in the country. A lot of that's attributed to the former Congressman C.W. Bill Young. He made sure that we had stuff here that made military components. And I'll stop there and see if there are any questions I might be able to answer. And before I take any questions, I just want to say, don't fire her. Keep him, and life will be good. And thank you all for what you do every day to make a difference in Clearwater. It's an exciting time. I look forward to, I know you're changing direction with your lobbyist in Tallahassee. You've made a good choice. Hopefully that can work out. And I look forward to that. And if I mess up, Ms. Call never hesitates to call and tell me I've messed up. So she'll continue to do that. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to try.
Okay, Councilmember Cotton.
Senator Hooper, as a supporter of yours, thank you so much for the work that you have done, the work that you're going to be doing. I look forward to working with you in your office going forward and hopefully getting some of those appropriations for our area. We all know that our infrastructure needs it, and I know that you care about this area greatly. So thank you again for all that you've done.
Thank you, Councilmember. I know the governor did not treat a lot of cities in Pinellas County well. We'll work on him. He's from Pinellas County. Shame on him.
Don't need him.
Councilmember Teixeira.
Yeah, I want to thank you as well, not only for today and that great summary, but I want to thank you for all that you do. I feel that you're so easily accessible, and you're such a great resource, and you have been in the past, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you. I know the arts are important to you. I just took 20 minutes to go through your exhibition. It's amazing. And the arts took a big blow this year in the budget with the veto process. Those arts projects were funded in my budget of economic development appropriations, and I was sad the governor chose to veto across the board all of them. We're working on smoking a peace pipe and making sure that arts are important to every community, and music is important to every community and school, and it plays a component of our quality of life that I think is worthy of consideration of projects that are requested.
Thank you, and if I can be of any help, please don't hesitate to call me.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, do you have anything? Okay. Councilmember Medina.
I just want to thank you, Senator Hooper, again for being here today, but also for your you and Lee's leadership in our community, your passion for Clearwater in this Tampa Bay region. Definitely know that our residents should have a little bit of peace of mind knowing that your role going forward for the next 2 years with appropriations. And again, like you said, just being treated fairly is a good place to be for us, and look forward to working with you going forward. And again, just thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being with all of you Saturday night at a wonderful, wonderful event benefiting the police chiefs of Tampa Bay, and it was a pleasure for me to be there. Thank you again for everything you do, and don't hesitate to call.
Let me close before you finish.
Okay.
Just reiterate what they all said. I appreciate you touching on the property insurance issue and the condo association issue, because that's probably, we get asked by that most, and we try not to punt, but we explain, and most Clearwater citizens understand that's really a state issue, not a local government issue, but appreciate you giving an update on that. We don't have a lot of citizens watch these work sessions, but we have some do. They'll be very interested in your comments, the progress that they're going to make in the next session. So thank you for that. And thank you for focusing on what's important to Clearwater citizens too. And, as been said, we feel well represented here in Clearwater by our state senator. He stays in touch with all of us and listens carefully to what this community needs and citizens need and want. And we couldn't be better served than your service. And I want to thank you for your long time, sir. I don't want to make you feel old here this afternoon, but you've served this city as an elected official. You've served in the State House of Representatives, and now you continue to serve in the State Senate. So you've served for a number of years. And at compensation, probably not enough to cover your dry cleaning for all those years you've served. But it's you, and to serve in leadership in Tallahassee, some of us know it's a major commitment and amounts to not much sleep during session because you're required to attend meetings that the others are not because you're in leadership. And so appreciate your commitment and your continued service and your many years of service. You served Clearwater well, and we look forward to the upcoming session and working with you to try to make good things happen for our citizens here in Clearwater.
Mayor, Clearwater is my home for over 50 years, and it will always have a special place in my heart as what I will always consider home. So make us all proud, and I know you will. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Senator. With that, we'll move to item 3.1 on the agenda.
City Vulnerability Assessment Presentation.
Good afternoon, Council, City Leadership. Cassie Cordova, Sustainability Manager for Public Works. As you know, the City of Clearwater has been working on a Florida Department of Environmental Protection grant-funded and state-mandated citywide vulnerability assessment with hopes to better understand how climate factors such as sea level rise, heat, and increased flooding will impact the city in the near and distant future. Today, our consultant, Atkins Realis, is going to present key findings and share recommendations for community-wide adaptation and mitigation strategies. So I'm going to pass the podium over to Chris Zambito from Atkins. He'll give the presentation, and then we'll both be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon. I'm going to keep a timer myself, try not to be too long for you guys here. So appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys and update you on this important process here. And perfect segue from the senator, a lot of climate vulnerability that we are exposed to. So what's happened for us in the past couple of years here, the state of Florida has a Resilient Florida program now, and so we are getting grant funded to help the communities across the state look at these things. The City of Clearwater took this opportunity to look at vulnerability assessment, and not only from the perspective of the state looking at flood, but also because of your efforts in sustainability to go ahead and look at heat exposure, which we're seeing day to day is becoming a bigger issue. So really the key thing here is that we have a process that looks at not only what are we exposed to, but how do we use this tool to help position Clearwater so that you guys can get future grants, so that you can do the community rating system and reduce flood insurance premiums for your residents, and help with a data-driven tool for the future. So essentially what we have here, there's three kind of components of understanding the city. So there's the road network, which we look at how people travel and move throughout the city. We have kind of some of these low points and areas where water intersects the road network. That's the stormwater nodes. And then you have your building structure. So we take all of this into account. We look at how people move throughout the city and have modeled how that exposes them to different vulnerabilities. So essentially, as you guys see in the news every day, there are climate stressors across the planet, and global models have projections associated with the future, and we look at taking those projections and we downscale them to the local level so that they're more calibrated to what we might see in this geography. So looking here, there are some projections that are required by law. So this is in state statute for how these programs get implemented. So this is looking at intermediate high and a 2017 projection and an intermediate low. You can kind of see intermediate low, if we kind of stay, emissions come down, we only go a foot or two up, not that drastic a deal. Thankfully, Clearwater has some topography, but in the intermediate high, we kind of do spike up pretty dramatically in what impacts we might be likely to see. And that's just from the tidal side. When we start looking at flood exposure, we're looking at not only rainfall events, but also storm surge. And as you might suspect, obviously the coastal areas are most at risk. You have some stream areas along there that are also very exposed. And what you kind of see here that's thankful for you guys is you do have the topography. So these areas are not spreading inland too much into the future, but what you are seeing is those areas that are even exposed today, the water and the threat is getting much deeper. So those are things that you're going to have to adjust to. So this is kind of looking at the city from the transportation perspective and looking at, what areas might become vulnerable to the point where when you're looking at how do we recover from a disaster or how do we move in our day-to-day lives, these are areas that are likely to be disrupted most frequently under these different scenarios. So that helps to inform some of the results of the models. Now what you're going to see here on the heat side, we're taking not only areas where there are trees today, where there's impervious surfaces, but we're kind of showing that geographically across the city where areas are going to be more exposed to hotter days. And you can see here pretty dramatically between 2040 and 2100, we're going up to where nearly half the year to more than half the year, you're experiencing at least 90 degrees, and that's just a minimum scientific threshold that's arbitrarily selected, but it goes much higher than that. So it's going to be a little difficult to work with in the future here and how we deal with this. So what are you guys doing that's a little different than most communities across the state? So you're taking some of these initial data inputs and you're saying, well, how can we start modeling how we might reduce our exposure, how we might reduce the vulnerability? And so what we have here is we have a planning tool that lets you look at different alternatives, lets you look at different geographies, and look at how that might provide you a return on investment for implementing actions into the future. So we're showing some of the common ones here are elevating roads, elevating houses, acquiring houses, seawalls or living shorelines, and then planting trees. So from the perspective of the city in this project, we had a lot of stakeholders from internal staff. So we had emergency management, we had engineering, we had planning, and these individuals would get together and look at some of our existing planning documents in the city. So some of these geographic areas we're looking at come from comprehensive planning, some of them come from economic development, some of them are looking at social vulnerability. And so this is what this tool allows you. It gives you an opportunity to look at these areas of interest, and these can be expanded in the future, but it gives you a starting point to look at what areas you might want to model. And so this is really what came out of this process here, is not only do you have geographic data, data-driven results, but you have a tool that's going to let you look at these in a way that shows you how to target return on investment. So this is an example here of a watershed. This is Stevenson Creek. This is an area that, is pretty vulnerable today along the riverine system. But what's happened with this is working with your staff here, we have some tools now that we're looking at a snapshot in time with this particular result here, but this is actually an interactive tool. So that curve that you see is based on any project within this study where acquiring home was an option, elevating a road was an option, and it had a positive return on investment. So you could click anywhere on that graph and it would show you which projects have a positive return on investment, shows you what's the cost avoided, uses depth damage functions to look at flooding into structures, and helps you understand where you might want to target your investments. This is a similar example. This is on Tampa Bay side over here. And so we're looking at, in this particular area, where we might want to elevate roads. And so this is kind of showing you, along this chart here, you had about $80 million of investment would avoid $200 million in costs. So again, it helps to start letting you guys at a planning level target areas you might want to work with. This is not saying by any means that you guys are going to implement these things. This is just helping you go through different scenario planning, what-if planning, and start looking at where you might want to conduct investments. So one of the more interesting things that also has come out of this is looking at tree coverage. So that is something that has been in these council chambers a lot over the past 6 months, is looking at trees. And this again is not saying that this is absolutely where these things must go, but we're talking about the right place, the right tree at the right place, the right type of tree. Where do we want to put these? And so this is a tree benefit model was created for you guys. And so what it does is it uses demographic data. It looks at where people travel, where they live currently, as far as where they walk in front of all these areas. It looks at impervious surfaces, and it looks at shade. So what it's doing is helping you guys to understand where there might be the most benefit of a tree. It's not saying what that right tree is, or in reality, you may have some limited right of way. And so you'd have to work with arborists and some of that. But it's starting to help you guys target where you might want to put investment. So when we look at all these things together, there's a lot of activities that the city can do. There's a lot of activities that the homeowners may want to do. And so this is kind of a portfolio of options that you guys might want to look at in the future. Generally, they're along this line of, whether you want to increase awareness, which is something we're kind of doing today, policy and planning, which we're kind of doing today, and then, what are the actual investments you're going to do as far as getting things in the ground or getting things in the air, different physical countermeasures that you guys might want to do. So, these are all opportunities that the city has in their toolbox to start looking at. And that's what the benefit of the tool is to start to look at, okay, with grant benefits that are coming out in the future, whether it's the state, federal dollars, ARPA dollars, all of these things require data-driven processes to support the grant applications. So we're trying to line you guys up as best as possible to look at, not only where are you at today, and this is kind of providing a baseline, but where do you want to be in the future? So the staff will have access to all of these GIS data inputs. They'll have access to the model. You guys will be able to work with your staff if you guys want to customize different scenarios or parts of the city to look at in the future. This is kind of the first cut of giving you guys a baseline for understanding your climate exposure and vulnerability. So really, from the perspective of what programs this dovetails into the most, this is supporting your Green Print 2.0, so all of your sustainability actions that you're doing today, your comprehensive planning, which is your Clearwater 2045, and then boots on the ground. A lot of times it's the floodplain management that kind of takes the first side of that. So your engineering staff and planning staff and building services staff. So these are all opportunities for you guys to build from this data set and look at your grant opportunities that you have today and grant opportunities in tomorrow. So with that, I will end this presentation.
Any questions or comments from the council?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, with that, we'll move to item 3.2 on the agenda.
Approve a purchase order to Southern Landscape Materials for roadway materials in the amount of $250,000.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City Leadership. This contract will be used to supply aggregate material to maintenance staff to maintain city infrastructure like streets, sidewalks, utility maintenance and repairs, pipe stability, and to make sandbags for storm events and other maintenance projects. This contract has the annual capacity of $250,000 for 1 year with an option of 2 1-year renewals if the quality of services and product provided is appropriate and acceptable to city staff. The funding encompasses contributions from Public Works Department and other various department budgets. And with that, I'll answer any questions, take comments and concerns.
Vice Mayor?
So I saw the list of the 8 items that I don't see any bid pricing, but evidently you picked a company that gave competitive pricing on that. And where do you store this stuff?
So we have storage bins within the Public Works complex. And part of the contract is if we needed like a large amount delivered to a specific project site, they can do that as well.
They just deliver to the site itself, but you had, I think some of the concrete was stored in, somewhere on here it said that you had silos or something that?
Yes. Well, we didn't receive a bid on the actual cement silo, so we left that out. But we do have cement silo within our Public Works complex as well.
Okay. Is that up off of Hercules?
Yeah, 1650 North Arcturus.
By the airport area?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Just
Thank you.
east.
Questions, comments? Okay. Do we have consent?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. We have consent on agenda item 3.2. Thank you. Agenda item 3.3.
Approve an increase to the purchase order to Inliner Solutions for stormwater pipe lining.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, esteemed leadership members. My name is Ed Willis. I'm the Stormwater Manager for the city. Just a brief recap of the history of this item. You may recall on March 7th at a council meeting, you all awarded a multi-part contract to Inliner Solutions, and that was for $1,050,000. On March 14th, 3 purchase orders were issued, one of which for pipe cleaning, one for pipe inspection, and another one for barnacle removal. Specific for today's action, I'm talking about the pipe cleaning portion of it. So, thus far the contractor has been requested to perform work totaling just a little over $400,000, and he's completed that work. And that was all done under PO 240-00581 for pipelining. So Public Works stormwater crews every day continue to clean and televise stormwater pipes and review the pipe filming the inspections for that. As a result of our efforts, we've identified more than 50,000 feet of additional stormwater pipes that are in need of attention, and that is throughout the city. So we could either line them or we could replace them, and replacement is very expensive. Lining is the best bang for the buck for this. So pipelining versus replacement, whether it's for stormwater or wastewater, is not only lining significantly reduces the price per foot, but it also gives us immediate results. And it's far less disruptive to residents, businesses, as the costly intrusion of excavation required, street restoration, it's all eliminated when we slip a liner in a pipe. So it's a minor lane closure for a couple of days. So Public Works, like every city department, is committed to exploring every opportunity to reduce expenses and deliver benefits as quickly as possible. As previously provided, Inliner Solutions submitted the lowest bid for this item, multidiscipline maintenance contract. Their bid was reviewed by staff and determined to be of good value and in accordance with industry standards. We continue to reserve the option to approve annual extensions of the contract for an additional 3 one-year terms. So this project aligns with a whole bunch of the comprehensive plans and things that the city sees as important, including the green footprint that we're trying to create. And more importantly, it's in alignment with Clearwater's strategic objective to provide superior public services. So with that, I will take questions, if any.
Any questions from the council?
It's a lot of liner.
It is.
Got a lot of pipes.
So maybe you can't answer this today, but at some point, I know that Island Estates has been looking to have probably the liner done there in that neighborhood for a while. You know when that would be scheduled to put in?
So you're right, I cannot answer that right today, but I'll be happy to find out for you.
Thank you.
Because we have a lot of it, you know, we're looking at the whole island area with a very critical eye, because as you know, as what you've just heard from the rising sea levels, you know, that's going to require a whole lot of infrastructure changes. And so there's quite a charrette of options that we're looking at before we invest in any one. So right now, what we want to do is improve the conveyance of the stormwater in the existing systems and get those systems as functional as possible for the least amount of money. So the long story is a lot more to come. The short story is we will definitely attack the infrastructure that needs immediate attention, and much of it is in fact out on the islands.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor. Yeah, real quick, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing, because we are currently doing liners for the wastewater system on
Yes.
Island Estates. I just want
Yeah,
to
I'm
make sure.
aware of that.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks.
Any other council question? Okay. Do we have consent?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have consent on agenda item 3.3. Thank you. Agenda item 3.4.
Approve supplemental 1 work order for Harvard Jolly for design services of South Osceola parking garage.
Good afternoon, council and city leadership. Jeremy House, parking manager for the city. I have the unenviable task today to bring to you a request for more money for our South Osceola parking garage. The project was started back in late November of '22. We came to a previous council to onboard Harbor Jolly. They're here with me today to answer questions as well, to design this garage. We were shooting for, it's all in the summary, but basically to summarize, and we'll dive into as much as you want to get into as far as what happened, where and how, and that kind of stuff. But basically, when all was said and done, the garage we were shooting for was terribly over budget and didn't meet all of our engineering needs. So we kind of, at this point, we have to go back to kind of a redesign, a different footprint, and that's why we need another $452,000. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Vice Mayor?
Okay, so I know one of the big hangups was the position of the chiller for the church. Are we talking about?
Yes, that was one of them,
Yeah.
correct.
So how did that work out? Are you putting it in the garage, or on the garage, or near the garage, or are you putting it off the garage site?
So the new plan, the building will have a smaller footprint, so the chiller basically stays where it is right now. We don't have to move it, we don't have to mess with it. Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it more or less stays where it's at.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Cotton?
Yeah, I've just got one question. In regards to the structural rigidity of this, over the past year and a half, we can see, I mean, one that comes to mind is the parking garage in Atlanta that fell. With the influx of new ownership in EV vehicles, those being heavier than a traditional vehicle, have we accounted for that with the building parameters of this building so that it will be sustained, you won't see anything like that?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
They're the experts, I'll let them answer.
If you'd like to give us more detail, that's great. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So our structural engineer is Pannoni, which used to be McCarthy and Associates. You may know Mike McCarthy. He's been in the industry for 4 decades or so, right here in Clearwater, one of the best structural engineers there is. So we've had those discussions with them. And so we're not only considering the structural issues, but also the infrastructure, you know, how much EV to put in now, how to put in the empty conduit for infrastructure and power for the future. These are all big questions right now in terms of parking garages.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go. I read the narrative on how we got to this point, which is not great. I understand that we've scaled the project down some, so there's some savings there that would, take care of the extra $450,000. But it's not a great result for the taxpayers, of course, on this, to be spending an extra $450,000 on architecture drawings on a project that I don't know who, if there's, I used to do construction litigation, so I know it's always, hey, they, X, Y, and Z, a lot of pointing fingers. But I guess, and again, I understand you got to redraw quite a bit, but I'm just wondering about that amount for the redesign, and surprised a little bit that a lot of that hadn't already been done. It's just amending the plans. So can you describe what additional work's going to have to be done?
Thank you, Mayor. These are all good questions. So we have some graphics to show you, but maybe I'll try and explain it and see if that's enough, but we could always show you graphically. So I know you're very familiar with the site. We were looking at, in the very beginning, there were certain parameters that the city had requested. For example, the speed in exiting, getting on to the parking garage, but even more importantly, because they're mainly going to be events, the speed of getting off and out of the parking garage and parking on flat decks. So the original design was level floor place with a speed ramp. A speed ramp, if you're familiar with it in parking garage technologies, you don't park on that ramp. So you go up to the floor very quickly, you park, or go up to another floor. That takes up more room. It's the best way to park. People don't really like parking on inclines. It's the best way to park, but it's more expensive because it takes up more room. So there was an inefficiency. So even though we're accomplishing the goals that the city had of parking on level decks, getting out of the parking garage quickly, We ran into these other issues about the chiller, had some issues with Duke Energy trying to fit the transformer in. It's a very tight site. I mean, we're literally counting inches in different directions. The city hired creative contractors on board to do some pricing. The numbers were coming in much higher than the city wanted them to be. We agreed with that. When you look at it in terms of parking per space or different things, it's expensive, even though we have the retail on it. So as we looked at trying to solve all these things, how could we bring the cost down? This is going to bring the cost down by $3.6 million. It solves the chiller issue. It solves the Duke Energy issue. It solves the issue of linking over to the church. It basically reduces the footprint to a point where we have to start over with everything: civil engineering, architectural, structural engineering. It's really a start over, but the benefit is that even with paying us, it's going to be a $3.2 million reduction. So we're not happy with that process either, but we've really explored all the possibilities, and at least there's a return on the investment for doing this. Hopefully that explains it. I mean, we have graphics.
That's helpful.
to
I
kind of
want
show.
the public to hear that, because all they see is, and from what, we just covered the high ground first, they didn't have a chance to read the report that we did.
Yeah.
We got here.
Yeah.
So we get criticized a lot for going to the council meeting on Tuesday nights and rubber stamping, and people don't realize that we're
Yeah.
having this meeting today. We've all read the materials, so I just wanted to bring that out
Yeah.
into the
No, I
public
appreciate
record,
that.
because even though we have read it, to understand that it's an extra $450,000, but the cost of the project is being reduced by $3
Right.
million, so it's absorbed.
Right.
And so that they understood the background.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I also want to compliment your staff and creative contractors. We've really been working as a team to try and solve all the issues in the most economic way that we can, and we want to keep this moving forward. We know you have a need for this garage, so, I mean, we'd like to get approval and keep this thing moving forward.
Okay. With that, do we have consent?
Yes.
Okay. We have consent on agenda item 3.2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Agenda item 3.5.
Approve a work order of Wanamaker Jensen Architects for design of the Municipal Services Building renovations project.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Tara Kivett, City Engineer. As summarized in the agenda item, previously, City Council had approved a work order to Wanamaker Jensen Architects for design of the City Hall. At that time, the city had not decided on a firm concept for this project, so numerous concepts were considered: a standalone, a combined, and a connected facility. The standalone facility was decided upon. So up until now, the team's been diligently working on the City Hall design. That's been our priority. So just recently, all the stakeholders involved in this project with the team has finalized the concepts of the floor plans. And so once that scope was confirmed, and it was vetted out through our owner's rep and Ajax contractors with cost estimates to ensure that we aligned with the budget, Wanamaker brought forward an updated scope of work for this project, and so that's the work order in front of you today. We're realizing some savings by combining these projects, obviously, with larger bid packages in both for the subcontractors under the CM at risk, and also with timing with our design team. So if you have any questions, I'm here to help.
Questions from the council? Just to summarize for the public too, most of this project is being covered by ARPA funds, that's correct?
The MSB building?
Or just the city hall portion of it, or?
There's some penny money. I believe it's about 6.3 million of penny money, and the rest is, I believe, general fund.
It's general fund and
And
general
the
fund
city
reserves.
halls, where we're using the ARPA funds, is that right?
And I'm not sure.
I thought there
I
was
understand.
ARPA funds, but not for this part of it, but the overall project, the construction.
We've had some conversations in terms of like solar and things like that, in terms of what we could use in terms of some of the components on City Hall, yes, but a majority of the funds are not from ARPA.
Okay.
They're general fund and penny.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Just a comment, we've been talking about the MSB remodel for a long time, so curious to really get into see exactly what you're doing, plan, but I'm glad we're doing that and moving forward on it, so it's a good thing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? With that, do we have consent?
Yep.
Yes.
We have consent on agenda item 3.5. Thank you. Agenda item 3.6.
Approve selection of firms to provide construction manager at-risk services for continuing contracts.
This is the one that staff has requested that we
Excuse me,
continue this.
That's right, we pulled that
Oh.
one. Yeah. Excuse me. Agenda item 3.7.
Approve owner direct purchase order for Train Technologies for air handling unit.
Thank you, Tara Kivett, City Engineer again. This owner direct purchase item is brought forward ahead of the MSB GMP to ensure that long lead time air handler item will be ready for installation and hence mitigate any schedule impacts. The air handler replacement was planned regardless of the MSB renovations under the building and maintenance. This replacement in the MSB renovation will realize more cost savings. Obviously, when we do an owner direct purchase, we have some tax savings. It will still be managed under our pending GMP that we plan to bring forward to council by the end of the year. The MSB scope also includes some additional HVAC-related items that will be part of this future MSB GMP. Those include VAVs, which will help improve efficiency, reduce noise by more properly allowing the right volume and temperature in all of the workspaces. And we've done many ODPs. Frequently, councils may be not aware of them because it's included in the bigger packages of the GMP. But again, the main reason to bring this forward is to save some long lead time and to lock in pricing because we were expecting Train to increase some of their prices at the beginning of the fiscal year. So any questions?
Any questions or comments on agenda item 3.7? Do we have consent on this item?
Yes.
We have consent on agenda item 3.7. Thank you. Agenda item 4.1.
Approve an interlocal agreement between Pinellas County and the City of Clearwater regarding the installation and maintenance of traffic signal cabinet art.
Good afternoon, Council. Amber Bryce, Arts and Cultural Affairs Manager. This item is for an interlocal agreement between the City of Clearwater and Pinellas County to allow the city to wrap signal boxes that are county-owned and operated located in Clearwater. Primarily signal boxes along the Gulf Bay Boulevard. Thinking Outside the Box is a Clearwater Arts Alliance program. They wrap signal boxes on behalf of the city, and their program has been highly successful with 46 signal boxes wrapped throughout Clearwater. The Arts Alliance has asked to be able to expand their program to Gulf to Bay. Upon approval, we will move forward with an FDOT, a Community Aesthetic Agreement. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions? Councilmember Teixeira.
Really happy about this. Extending it to Gulf to Bay is fantastic. That's our gateway for all our tourists. So thank you for that collaboration with the county and getting this done. Great addition to our city. Thank you.
And I do think they have some ARPA funds, Clearwater Arts Alliance, that's going to expire, so it's important to kind of move this along so they can use it for this purpose. So.
I was going to say thank you. This looks great. I think that in addition to Gulf to Bay, we should just do all of our signal boxes. So the more we can get done, the better. Thanks, Amber.
I do appreciate us extending this opportunity and throughout the community, especially Gulf to Bay. I do have questions regarding the processes. When a particular type of art is selected and maybe a location is named, is there any sort of approval process that goes through to make sure said art is fitting for the character of that community? And I ask because I've gotten a lot of feedback, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with it, regarding our Countryside box on Countryside Boulevard, and it not fitting necessarily the character of that community.
So this is an Arts Alliance program. We usually give them the freedom to pick the art that goes on the boxes. They have their own vetting process. They pay for the usage of the designs. They can use the design up to 3 times throughout the community. That's the only box that I've heard of that we've had a complaint about.
Me as well.
But I have mentioned that to them, that maybe in the future we strategically pick certain art for certain areas.
Yeah, right, like graffiti looks beautiful in an urban setting, but maybe not in certain demographics of our community. Is there a shelf life for these, that when something is wrapped, how long are they permitted to stay there, or how long do they plan on being?
There's no permitting process of how long we can keep it on there. I think their oldest is 8 or 9 years, and that one still looks pretty new, so they've held up pretty well.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have consent on this agenda item?
Sure.
We have consent on agenda item 4.1. Thank you. Agenda item 4.2.
Approve an interlocal agreement between the City of Clearwater and the Community Redevelopment Agency to provide staffing administrative services for the CRA.
Staff is requesting approval, and I'm here for questions.
Do we have consent? Any questions first? Do we have consent?
Yep.
We have consent on agenda item 4.2. Thank you. Agenda item 5.1.
Adopt ordinance 9792-24, declaring the millage rate to be levied for the fiscal year October 1, 2024, and ending September 30, 2025.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Tomorrow night is the final of 2 public hearings required by Florida statute to finalize the fiscal year 24-25 operating and capital improvement budgets. This first item is to approve the millage rate. I'm happy to answer any questions on anything budget over the next 3 items that you might still have.
Okay. Any questions? I do get confusion from the citizens when they see the rollback rate. Yeah, and I have to explain to them, we're not changing the millage rate. It's just a reflection of what it would be, fall back to if, with the rise in property values. But there's a lot of confusion out there in the public when they get their bill and they see that on there. They think we're raising the millage. We're not raising the millage. So just to remind the public
Right.
of that.
And
So,
I'll introduce these items and speak a little bit to that. I'll speak to that specifically on
I think that
tomorrow
would
night.
be good, because
Yeah.
there's, I get that. I've gotten that in the last 2 weeks from some
The
folks.
concept of rollback rate is confusing, and we're
Mhm.
required to speak to the percentage of the
Right.
change in these items every single time. And my numbers on trim notices, so I've had that call specifically trying to
Mhm.
explain what the trim notice means, and
Right.
it's a little confusing, but it's the law.
Yeah. This one we need to read now, or we read it again?
We're just here for
We
the
just
work
read it
session,
tomorrow.
so, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move to agenda item 5.2.
Adopt ordinance 9793-24 and second reading, adopting the operating budget.
Same again for tomorrow night, final hearing on operating.
Any questions? Okay, agenda item 5.3.
Adopt ordinance 9794, operate on second reading, adopting the capital improvement program.
Final reading tomorrow for the capital plan.
Okay, any questions? None. Agenda item 5.4.
Amend the city's fiscal year 2023-24 operating and capital improvement budgets at third quarter and pass ordinances 9795-24 and 9796-24.
This one won't be as quick.
Well, that's a
This is the
short-
third quarter and final budget review for the fiscal year 23-24 budget. This report reflects 9 months of activity, October through June, and also includes council action to date. In the general fund, expenditures are increased by $7,114,308. Amendments include an increase of $169,500 to the city attorney's office budget. This is for increases in personnel costs due to turnover, retirement actually, and outside counsel increases which were previously approved. An increase which totals $1,563,110 to police and fire supplemental pension. This is to bring the budget in line with actual revenues and expenditures for the supplemental pension this year. An increase of $192,690 for the fiscal year 23-24 TIF revenues, and $3 million in general fund revenues transferred to the new North Greenwood CRA. This $3 million was transferred between capital funds, the general fund, and CRA. All of this was approved previously in the reallocation of ARPA-related revenue. Amendments include, for third quarter, also include the following transfers to special programs and capital projects. We're moving $354,008 of general fund revenues for roofing, lighting, and HVAC replacements at the old Countryside Library, and this is to ready that building for interim use. We're moving $200,000 for property use and surplus planning in the special program fund. $535,000 to ready the Harborview site
for development, and $1,100,000 for Myrtle and Cleveland utility undergrounding. This is our final chance to amend the budget for the current year, so various revenues are adjusted to bring the budget in line with receipts that are anticipated for the remainder of the year. This includes increases to utility taxes, franchise fees, state revenue sharing, beach contracts, and the gas fund dividend payment. Adjusted for expenditure increases noted above, this results in a net revenue surplus of $3,740,140 anticipated for the year. This surplus reduces the use of reserves previously allocated, returning approximately $25,757 to fund reserves at fiscal year end. With this adjustment, general fund reserves are approximately $60 million, or 26.5% of the proposed 24-25 general fund expenditure budget. This exceeds our minimum requirement by $40.7 million at third quarter. And council, these reserve balances that I just reported to you are different. If you're following along in the memo, they're different than what was in that report. I found an error, but this agenda was already published, so this is a little bit higher than what was reported there. In the stormwater fund, expenditures are increased by $7 million, transferred to the capital fund for the North Beach Pump Station project. This is offset by an allocation of fund reserves. In the solid waste and recycling fund, revenues are amended, which net to zero. This includes increases to solid waste collection charges and interest earnings. These are offset by reductions to recycling fees for the customer credits that were offered earlier this year. In the general services fund, expenditures are increased by $323,037. This is transferred to the capital fund for the general services roof replacement project, offset by an allocation of fund reserves. In the garage fund, expenditures are increased by $1,686,963, also transferred to the capital fund for the general services roof replacement project. That as well is offset by an allocation of fund reserves. We're also increasing the garage fund by $878,671, and this is for the payoff of police radios, offset by an amendment increasing radio fixed charge revenues transferred from the police department. And amendments to the central insurance fund, expenditures reflect an increase of $6 million. This is for liability claims from the flooding at Main Library, and these claims are offset by revenues recognizing insurance recoveries. In the capital fund, there's a net increase of $43,459,106 reflected at third quarter. This is primarily related to the following amendments, all of which have been previously approved. $18 million increase for the interfund loaned in the Beach Marina upgrade project, $10,419,500 in lease purchase funding in the motorized equipment replacement project, $1,100,000 in lease purchase funding for the motorized equipment purchase project, $1,660,000 in grant revenue from the Florida Department of Transportation, and $790,000 in reimbursement revenue for the Aviation Operations Center project, and $2,186,963 in garage fund and general services fund revenue for the general services roof replacement project. I'm sorry, it should have been $1,186,000, not 200. 2 million, I mean. Other capital amendments that you've not seen before include $535,000 of general fund revenues for the Harborview Site Foundation project, $1,100,000 of general fund revenue in the Myrtle Cleveland Utility Undergrounding project, general fund revenue increases of $119,008 for AC replacement, $165,000 for roof replacement, and $70,000 for light replacement at the old Countryside Library building. An increase of $56,105 in property owner share revenue in the Pinellas New Mains project, that's a gas project. $7 million in stormwater fund project, and stormwater funds for the North Beach Pump Station project. $200,000 general fund revenue for the McKay Playfield Improvements project, and $200,000 in general fund revenue for the Coachman Park Improvements project. Finally, in the special program fund, we're increasing it by a total of $2,855,901 at third quarter. Significant amendments include the following: $504,000 from special program fund reserves for the utility feasibility study, $50,000 of general fund ARPA-related revenues to create the House Bill 1365 Pinellas County Special Program, $250,000 transferred from the general fund for the Amplify sublease agreement, $200,000 transferred from the general fund to create this property use surplus program, $36,665 in reimbursements received for Adalia,
$100,652 in public safety grants and governmental revenues received for agency assistance programs, $478,449 from the Pinellas County School Board for school resource officers for the fiscal year 24-25 school year, $437,029 in contractual services revenue received from police extra duty, $66,670 in fines and court proceeds for the public safety programs and the tree replacement program, $45,774 in CDBG program income revenue, $553,129 from the Juvenile Welfare Board received for summer and after-school programs for the 24-25 school year, $85,377 in special events revenues received in the last quarter, and $29,665 is transferred between existing special programs. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions regarding this agenda item? Okay. Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 6.1.
Approve a 5-year payment deferral via a loan modification for 1101 Holt Avenue.
Good afternoon, Dylan Mayu, Economic Development and Housing. Homeless Emergency Project, or HEP, provides emergency shelter, transitional housing, family rental units, and a multitude of services for the homeless population here in the city of Clearwater. HEP West is a 32-unit apartment building for low-income veterans. The city of Clearwater provided a $372,000 loan for the acquisition of the parcel located at 1101 Holt Avenue in 2010, and $725,000 for the construction of the complex in 2013. HEP had requested a loan deferral prior to the end of the previous deferral period in March of 2019. It was approved and deferred payment of the loan until January 2025. On August 13th, 2024, HEP submitted a written request asking for an additional 5-year deferment of the payment. HEP provided the budget for the property, which includes the tenant services, which showed that the program has resulted in a loss of $293,857.64. According to HEP, this deferment will provide an opportunity for HEP to offset losses incurred over the past several years. Staff recommends the deferment of the mortgage, establishing a payment commencement date of January 1st, 2030. I'd be happy to address any questions at this time.
Any questions from the council? Comments? Hearing, seeing none. Do we have consent?
Yep.
Yes. Thank you. We have consent on agenda item 6.1. Agenda item 6.2.
Authorize 4 construction loans in the amounts not to exceed $290,000 each to Clearwater Neighborhood Housing Services.
Dylan Mayu, Economic Development and Housing. Clearwater Neighborhood Housing Services, or CNHS, has owned the parcel located at the southeast quadrant of Howard Street and South Martin Luther King Avenue since February of 2007. In May of this year, CNHS devised a plan to divide the parcel into 4 single-family home lots and submitted a request for the split to Pinellas County, which was recently approved. Concurrently, CNHS submitted plans for the subject properties to the city's building department for the construction of 3 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom single-family homes and a funding request application to the city's housing department. The corner lot will require setback flexibilities, which will be submitted to P&D, Planning and Development, for review in the coming weeks. After reviewing CNHS's application, the city's housing department has determined that the request is in line with City Objective 2.4 and can be fulfilled using a combination of home and SHIP funding. The housing staff has established the following terms for the construction loans. The homes are to be sold to individuals or families earning at or below 80% of the area median income. The construction loan will be repaid to the city at the time of the sale of the completed property. The developer is permitted to retain a 12% developer fee per our residential development policy. And the final approval of loans will be contingent upon the approval of all funding sources and building permits. There will be a land use restriction agreement placed on the property for a term of 15 years. Staff recommends the approval of 4 separate loans not to exceed $290,000 apiece. I'd be happy to address any questions at this time.
Any questions or comments regarding this agenda item?
I have a question regarding the last agenda item. And I should have gotten my hand up quicker, and I apologize for that. No problem working with this deferment, but do they need help with finances or to try and get something back on track that the city can help provide with them? Because if we're going from 2010 and extending this so far, is there anything that we can do to assist them in getting budget straight?
We do provide them with public service funding. I don't know if Ashley, I don't know if you would like to come up and address. Ashley Lowry here is with
She's going back
HEP.
to agenda item 6.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to make sure that you guys are taken care of and
Yeah, on
have
her,
the best
on her way
abilities.
up, I was going to say something too. I look at it, and the loss they're showing is depreciation. It's not.
For sure. Yeah, no, I understand that, but I think I'm going back to the 2010 with multiple deferments now. I just want to make sure that you guys are in a good place.
Yes, I mean, as a nonprofit, we'll happily take your donations toward the program. Most of our costs are direct service, case management, mental health assistance. We run a dental clinic and don't charge our clients anything for that. So it's just nature of the business as a nonprofit.
Perfect.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, good. Still have consent, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just making sure. All right, agenda item 6.2. Any questions on this one here?
No.
Okay. Do we have consent?
Yep.
Okay. You have consent on agenda item 6.2. Thank you. Agenda item 7.1.
Approve the purchase order for excess liability, workers' compensation, various specialty insurance policies.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, city leadership. My name is Todd Marone, City Risk Manager. Today, I'm here to request approval of the purchase of our excess liability, workers' compensation, marina liability, and the various specialty insurance policies in the upcoming year, October 1, 2024 to September 30th, 2025, in the amount not to exceed $1,650,000. This year, just like last year, we are proposed a not to exceed amount. We look forward as our broker continues to negotiate much lower rates than what was proposed in the initial agenda item, but we are budgeted to meet those obligations for the next year. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Councilmember Sherrill?
I just have a comment. I really appreciated our meeting. You made, you were very good at explaining the world of insurance and all the different circumstances and all the implications. So thank you so much for taking the time to make me understand why we're where we at and all the circumstances that leads to the situation. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Anyone else? No one likes insurance until they need it.
Until we need it.
No one likes to pay for insurance until they need it. And again, to echo her comments, for the public, you met with all 5 of us and went into great detail on why we have the coverage we have and why the premiums are what they are. And at least I was completely satisfied that what we have in place is appropriate, and it's definitely market rates for type of insurance we need. But appreciate you taking the time to explain to each of us individually what we're securing here.
I'm sorry, sir.
What we're paying for here. We went into great detail and appreciate your time doing that.
Very pleased to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, do we have consent on this item?
Yes.
Yes.
We have consent on agenda item, that was 7.1. Agenda item 8.1.
Approve an amendment with Cigna Healthcare for city medical insurance.
We're going to like insurance on this one. Good afternoon, I'm Jill Paul, the HR manager for benefits, and I'm here today to review the 2025 medical plan renewal. Just a little background on our medical plan. We pay an administrative fee of $125 per employee to Cigna to administer our plan, and then we pay medical and pharmacy claims as they occur. We had a 5% overall average claims per employee per month increase. Pharmacy is the primary cost driver with an increase of 14% from 2023 to 2024. Thank you. The national average for claims per employee per month are projected at 8% for 2025, and the projection for Florida is typically 2 to 3% higher than the national average. Cancer, musculoskeletal issues, and gastrointestinal disorders are the top cost drivers. Musculoskeletal conditions are related to bones, joints, and connective tissues. The cost associated with these conditions drive an increase in utilization of advanced imaging, ER visits, chiropractic visits, and surgery. Diabetes and inflammatory disease are the highest pharmaceutical spend. Some common inflammatory diseases are rheumatoid arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and asthma. These conditions have high costs associated with the specialty drugs used to treat them, causing our pharmacy spend to increase higher than medical claims. Catastrophic claims, those that reach a $50,000 threshold, thankfully have decreased year over year. This leads me to what HR is doing to positively impact our wellness and how we've been recognized for our efforts. The HR benefits team and wellness coordinator, in partnership with the Employee Health Center, have helped to increase the number of employees that are visiting the clinic and participating in Motivate Me and OMADA. With the increased participation in wellness activities, this will positively impact claims. This year, the city was awarded the Gold Seal from the Bell Seal Award for Workplace Mental Health. This is an improvement from last year when we received the Silver Seal. The American Heart Association has awarded the city with gold level recognition in the 2024 Wellbeing Works Better Scorecard. And this scorecard represents notable commitment to the health of our workforce and the community. The city was also recognized by Cigna. The Cigna Healthy Workforce 2023 Gold designation evaluates organizations based on the core components of its well-being program, including leadership and culture, program foundations and execution, policies, and accommodations. Finally, the city was recognized as one of the 2024 Healthiest Employers of Central Florida. This recognition is awarded by the Healthiest Employers and Trusted Awards program that recognizes people first organizations taking a more proactive approach to employee health. Okay. We are in our 4th year of the Motivate Me program. This program incentivizes healthy medical and lifestyle choices and is available to employees and retirees participating in our wellness medical plan. Participants can earn up to $200 in incentives by participating in wellness screenings such as physicals, mammograms, and colonoscopies. Participants can also earn incentives by completing a health assessment and participating in preventative care visits. In 2023, the employees redeemed over $90,000 in incentives, and year-to-date, employees have redeemed over $50,000 in incentives. Our wellness coordinator has done outreach to employees to ensure that in addition to completing screenings, they are also completing the program gatekeepers that include wellness screenings and a health assessment. This will allow them to redeem incentives. As previously stated, we're in our 4th year of Motivate Me, and based on our positive trends, we feel participation is positively impacting claims. Our primary care visits are above the normal trend, and our annual physicals are above the normal trend. We're also scoring above the norm for breast cancer screenings and medication adherence. Medication adherence compliance is imperative to long-term health with chronic conditions. We initiated the OMADA program in 2022, and it focuses on assisting employees that are at risk for type 2 diabetes or heart disease. Once the employee applies and is approved for the program, they receive a digital scale, a health coach that communicates via the app, and the employee is assigned a support group. Employees can interact with the group and the health coach and can earn $100 by completing at least 9 of the 16 sessions in a 20-week period. The lessons consist of different topics to include how to navigate cravings using mindfulness, basic nutrition, better sleep, and overcoming overeating. This targeted program helps employees stop disease progression, as chronic conditions are costly to insurance plans. As an update, since its inception, we have 157 participants that have started the program, and the average weight loss after completion is 10.6 pounds. The current calendar year budget for renewals is $29.3 million. This figure includes city budgeted funds, payroll deductions, and retiree contributions. Historically, the city's percentage contribution for medical insurance has been 100% for employee-only coverage, 75% for employee plus one dependent, and 68% for employee plus family. For plan year 2023, there was a 13.1% increase. The city absorbed more of the increase than expected in order to avoid employees with dependent coverage feeling the full 13.1% increase. This adjustment moved the city away from the historical contributions, thus changing to 76% for employee plus one dependent and 70% for employee plus family, and leaving employee only at 100%. The 2024 plan year renewal was 4.8%, and the Benefits Committee recommended an 8.3% increase to work our way back to the historical contributions. The contributions for 2024 were 75.5% for employee plus one and 69% for employee plus family, with employee only remaining at 100%. The 2025 plan, the plan projection called for a 2.9% increase, and the Benefits Committee recommended to keep the contributions from the city at 75.5% and 69%. We are very excited about the increased utilization of our Employee Health Center, and I will share those metrics with you. Our employees are really enjoy the convenience and accessibility of the Employee Health Center, and we continue to have high satisfaction ratings from the employees. The high satisfaction rate will increase visits if employees recommend the health center to one another. Our visits are up in comparison to the previous year trend, which was 3,087 visits year-to-date in 2023 at this time. Our employees are engaged with the clinic, with 70% of employees utilizing the clinic over a 12-month rolling period. We have a 98% quality composite rate, which means our clinic staff is following up on all quality measures during visits, which include blood pressure and blood pressure control, tobacco screening and follow-up, depression screening and follow-up, and A1C follow-up. The clinic has dispensed 7,397 medications. That number is significant in and of itself, but it also represents a $73,970 savings to employees in copays. We have a 2-to-1 return on investment. The annual savings are realized through network replacement, lab replacement, and brand drug avoidance. The Employee Health Center has also improved technology it's using and is able to add photos to the employee medical record to assist providers and employees in seeing the progression of healing, and have adopted technology that imports the medical records that come through via fax to move directly into the employee medical record. The renewal recommendations are to renew the current medical plan and continue to use the Open Access Plus network, maintain our current plan design, and continue the Motivate Me and Omada programs, and encourage utilization of the Employee Health Center. Questions?
Questions to the council? Councilman Chair.
I just want to take a moment to go on record. Having participated in several healthcare plans, including one that was in the healthcare system itself, this is by far the best plan I've ever participated in. I also want to take a moment to congratulate you from going from silver to gold in mental health care benefits, which we all know research shows has been linked to physical negative impacts. And then last but not least, your focus on preventative care is commendable. And I just wanted to be on record and say that. Thank you for the good work.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. You know, the one thing I had was, I'm sure we're evaluating every year just to look for cost savings. For instance, the pharmaceuticals expense you pointed out is going up, and seeing how we can tweak. And I know there are some, you know, on the inflammatory diseases, you've got some listed here with very high cost prescriptions, but I'm assuming we're looking at all aspects of this plan every year to see if there's ways we can change it to kind of keep those costs down.
Yes. Sean?
And
from-
Cigna provides this, but I guess I don't know if we bid it out every so often, or what's
Yes,
our?
yes.
Yeah.
Typically, we go out to bid every 5 years.
Every 5 years. Okay.
Would you want to move, Sean? Do you want to, Sean, this is Sean Fleming, or
Yeah.
from the Garing Group, you can
Yeah.
elaborate.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. For the record, Sean Fleming, Senior Benefits Consultant with the Garing Group. I think Jill answered a lot of that, but specifically, you mentioned the autoimmune, and when we talk autoimmune, we're talking largely the Humiras, the Enbrels of the world. Other things you've seen commercials for during a football game or golf tournament. Those are the high-cost ones. In that space, specifically, I would say in the next 2 to 3 years, we have some good hope on the horizon because we have what's called biosimilars. So these drugs are very complex and hard to make, but there's a number of, they don't use the term generic, but essentially generics coming for some of those. So Humira can be anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 a script right now. The biosimilars are priced around 2,000 to 3,000. So there will be some good hope, I think, that will drive costs down in that. We do look at it every year. Our one challenging area right now, not just for the city of Clearwater, but for every group we work with, is what we call the GLP-1s, the Ozempic, the Mounjaros, the Wegovys, which are for diabetes, but a lot of people are taking them because they help lose weight. So that's kind of our biggest challenge right now, but we're constantly evaluating all those items.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay. Do we have consent on this agenda item?
Yep.
Okay. We have consent on agenda item 8.1, thank you. 9.1,
Approve the Pinellas County Combined Mutual Aid Agreement for Law Enforcement Services.
Afternoon, Mayor Rector, Council, Eric Gandy, Chief of Police. So the Florida statutes provide for law enforcement agencies to engage in mutual aid agreements when we have routine matters and/or emergencies across jurisdictional boundaries. The current agreement exists between 13 agencies in Pinellas County as well as Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. There are no costs associated with these agreements, but there are indemnification clauses that require me to come before you to ask your permission to sign this agreement. Simply put, emergency situations are those that would require additional resources beyond an agency's ability to handle a situation, and we can make a mutual aid request, and I can send resources to another jurisdiction and we can take action. The same would apply here. We have availed ourselves of those services in the past when a unique piece of equipment was unavailable to us, or we needed resources in a complex hostage situation or SWAT call-out. Routine matters would be just a routine investigation of crimes across jurisdictional boundaries. The crime originated here in Clearwater, but the suspect lives in Largo. So this is a roadmap for those agreements, and it will be in effect through January 31st, 2029. Have any questions?
any questions for the chief? Okay, do we have consent on this agenda item?
Yep. Yes.
We have consent on agenda item 9.1, thank you. Agenda item 9.2.
Reappoint Patrick Adamson to the Board of Trustees, Clearwater Police Supplementary Pension Plan.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City Leadership, Sergeant Brian Whitehead, Clearwater Police Department. I'm also a trustee on the Clearwater Police Supplemental Pension Plan. The Clearwater Police Officer Supplementary Trust Plan is the recipient of monies obtained by the state of Florida from insurance companies doing business in the community. These monies are required to be administered by a Board of Trustees whose composition, in keeping with the provision of Florida State Statute 185.05, must consist of 2 legal residents of the city appointed by the City Council. The Board of Trustees is solely responsible for the administration of the funds, the trust fund. At a meeting of the Board of Trustees held on August 21st, 2024, Patrick Adamson agreed to serve another 4-year term as a trustee. Mr. Adamson is a legal resident of Clearwater, Florida. The Board of Trustees of the Clearwater Police Supplementary Pension Fund recommends that Mr. Adamson be appointed as a trustee.
Any questions or comments by the council? We have consent on this agenda item.
Yes. Yep.
We have consent on agenda item 9.2. Thank you. Agenda item 9.3.
Approve an interlocal agreement between the Clearwater Community Redevelopment Agency and the City of Clearwater to provide CRA funding in fiscal year 2024 to underwrite the cost of
Good
additional
afternoon, Mayor,
community policing.
Council. Lieutenant Steve Baginski with the Police Department. This agenda item was previously brought before you
from the Community Redevelopment Agency. The Police Department is requesting council approval for the CRA interlocal agreement and funding for the 2024 and 2025 fiscal year in the amount of $282,433. I'd like to bring Ms. Lopez up to the mic to kind of describe to you some of the success stories that we've had with the program before we answer any questions.
Good afternoon, Ann Lopez, CRA Assistant Director. So one of the things that we implemented this fiscal year in our interlocal with the Clearwater Police Department is intentional visits with our business owners. So I'd like to thank Sergeant Stiff and our downtown team. We have been working on going out and doing those visits. So we get CRA staff, PD together, we go out and talk with the business owners. The CRA boundaries, it's a large boundary, so we kind of split it up and do certain sections so we can really provide some of that more one-on-one interaction with the business owners and property owners and be able to answer any questions that they may have. Some of the other things that we're doing is we have community engagement meetings. We also let the downtown team know, so they know if we're having a Mercado meeting, if we're meeting with our Merchants Association, you know, just in case questions may come up, so that way we can provide response. So those are some of the things that we implemented that we want to continue on for the next year. And we know that our business owners and property owners really enjoy the engagement.
And with that, we'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions regarding this agenda? Okay. Hearing none, do we have consent?
Yes.
We have consent on agenda item 9.3. Thank you, Dale. Agenda item 10.1.
Approve a purchase order of Motorola Solutions for a mock alert fire station alerting system.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Scott Ellis, Fire Chief, Clearwater Fire and Rescue. The request before you is to approve the purchase order with Motorola Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $136,316. This is for the mock alert system identical to the one in Fire Station number 46, which just was built out on North Beach, which provides the alerting of personnel from Pinellas County 911 dispatch. This system provides notification throughout the station as well as specified unit settings for individual rooms. Funds are available within Fire Station 47 project, FD 0019002. It is not in the GMP for Biltmore building the station since there is a 10% discount for municipal services. Construction of Fire Station 47 is currently ahead of schedule, on budget, and due to be finished in spring of next year, 2025. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments regarding this agenda item? Hearing none, do we have consent?
Yes. Yep.
We have consent on agenda item 10.1. Thank you. Agenda item 10.2.
Approve the fire protection services agreement between Pinellas County Fire Protection Authority and the City of Clearwater.
Again, Council, Mayor, Scott Ellis, Fire Chief, Clearwater Fire Rescue. This request is for approval of the fire protection service agreement with Pinellas County. This agreement is for 5 years commencing October 1, 2024 to September 30th, 2029 with annual requests to capture increased costs. Clearwater Fire Rescue Response District provides fire suppression service as well as fire inspections to individuals within the unincorporated area of Pinellas County. The current data reflects the unincorporated area Clearwater Fire Rescue serves is approximately 11.48% in our response district. Fiscal year 24-25 annual compensation is $2,915,182. As mentioned earlier, this agreement, like the ALS agreement, is reviewed annually for increased costs and or response area increases. With that, I'm happy to answer questions or clarification.
Any questions regarding agenda item 10.2? Do we have consent?
Yes.
We have consent on agenda item 10.2. Thank you. Agenda item 10.3.
Approve an agreement between Pinellas County and the City of Clearwater to provide emergency medical services, ALS first responder services.
Again, Mayor, Council, Scott Ellis, Fire Chief, Clearwater Fire Rescue. Again, this request is for the approval of the Emergency Medical Services ALS First Responder Agreement with Pinellas County. This agreement is for 5 years, also commencing on October 1, 2024 to September 30th, 2029, with annual requests to capture increased costs. Through this contract, Clearwater Fire Rescue is funded to provide advanced life services to the residents of the City of Clearwater and to individuals within unincorporated areas of Pinellas County, which is located within our fire control district. In 2023, Clearwater Fire and Rescue responded to 1,798 EMS calls for service. This contract provides for reimbursements of engine and rescue units, EMS coordination positions, and projected capital as outlined in Appendix A. Fiscal year 24-25 annual compensation is $9,186,432. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Cotton?
Yes, thank you. Chief, thank you for that. I have a question for you on page 30, subsection E of unit hours in the agreement. It goes over to state the authority shall reimburse contractor for its additional costs, salary, benefits up to $75 per hour for each individual, be it a paramedic or an EMT, 2 paramedics. Is that referring to any up units that you guys deem to put in service for, like, let's say an additional rescue in 49's area, since we know that's an issue?
So that one, we actually tried to, when we were talking with the county earlier this year, appreciate that, because again, we're trying to get another transport. We've talked with the county for the last 3 years and getting some additional resources over on that east side. That is the one we feel, as you said, helps clarify that for us, that we are able to do that, the county would fund that. We are in talks with the county to provide that. That is actually in the agenda, what they call Rescue 55, where it's going to be a fire rescue transport on a peak basis, staffed by firefighters. We're still working with, it's not in this contract. What the county wanted to do is keep that separate and a trial period for a 6-month period, followed by another year if that works. So yes, sir.
Okay, great. And then I just have a comment from my colleagues. Give you a brief overview of how our EMS system works here. Been in it for coming up on 15 years now. And it was once referred to as the Cadillac system. There was 2 systems like that within the nation. I think the other one was in Seattle, near that area. Meaning, when you call 911, you have a firefighter paramedic that's either on a rescue truck, which is the fire department ambulance, or one of our engines or trucks, responds to you within a certain amount of time. Typically it's 6 minutes.
7.5 minutes. Yes.
7.5, up to there. For somebody to get to you to start rendering you medical aid. Then we have Sunstar, which is a for-profit company that would send an ambulance, most of the time staffed with a paramedic and EMT, to allow that first response unit, typically the municipality's unit, to go back available for the next call, increasing efficiency. The ambulance would then drive that patient to the hospital. Since COVID, me witnessing this firsthand, it was a very strenuous time. We were dealing with a lot of curveballs, so I understand that. And the county went back to allowing BLS ambulance transports. What does that mean? It means there's no longer a paramedic on that ambulance, the white ambulance you see driving around. And what does that mean? That means when the paramedic on the fire unit deems they cannot, per EMS protocols or direction, or per their feelings, let an EMT take that person to the hospital, that fire unit then has to follow to the hospital so that paramedic can ride along with the BLS unit. There's 2 points here to that. A, you're taking that first due unit out of service longer to respond to the next call. B, Sunstar, now staffing a BLS unit for their cost-wise, is taking advantage of our paramedic to now essentially charge for an ALS transport. Those costs are charged through by the county, right? So I'm sure Sunstar doesn't have a lot to do with that. It just comes out as an ALS transport because we rode in with them. One of my big concerns here is, and it started to dovetail during the contractual agreement with the county and Sunstar, we were seeing more ALS units come back, right? This issue was kind of going down. They got a much better benefit package in their last negotiations. Recruitment is an issue across all first responder industries, really nationwide. But I was starting to think that, hey, we're getting back to the Cadillac system. Now, even 2 shifts ago, I counted 9 BLS transports. What does that mean to you and to the public, right? I think that our duty as government is first to protect our citizens, be it fire, police, EMS, one of the biggest things we have. I look at this contract and I'm concerned because it just doesn't seem like we're getting a fair shake. If we look at the text in Appendix A, for our contracted units, you will see that the city funds Engine 46, Engine 47, and Engine 48. I assume that's funding in accordance with funding that paramedic spot. So now what does that mean? Now that means that we, the citizens of Clearwater, anybody really, is paying for that paramedic on those engines paid for specifically by the city to do exactly what I just explained to you. If they get taken out of service to now follow to the hospital, we now have a void in those areas, which our fire engine essentially a few years ago could have just gone on to the next emergency call. Now they cannot. So I'm just very concerned. I want to make sure that we're being treated appropriately when it comes to certain funding allocations, and I look forward to hopefully getting this issue taken care of. So that was more of a statement, just to bring you guys up to speed on things that are happening, and not really a question for you, Chief.
That's okay if I may on that. I appreciate that. I do. My priority is to make sure that we provide the best service to our citizens, and no matter where we're responding to. Engine 46 was the last BLS unit in the county to be put into an ALS system. I was the one who put that in there because, again, I believe that every engine in the county should be at an ALS level. That is the standard of care that I think the public deserves, and is that is a paramedic on that. Again, and how this, as you're well aware of, for those that aren't, the county utilizes a system that is really based off of call volume, and when they will fund a paramedic position on an ALS unit. I have questioned that since I became fire chief. I think there's a better way of looking at it. I think the public deserves that. But it's taken some time to get to that point, so I do appreciate those comments. And you're right, Engine 46, Engine 47, and Engine 48 are those that are below the threshold of being funded by the county. But again, my stance is that they should be paramedics on those boards. That's why they're ALS as well.
Interesting.
City Manager?
Yeah, and the chief and I have had several conversations over the last year and a half regarding this agreement and continue to have conversations. We actually have a meeting coming up to talk with the county about just different options and making sure that Clearwater is well represented in these agreements. So we're going to continue to have those conversations and report back.
Okay. Do we have consent on agenda item 10.3? Yes. Yes, we have consent. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Agenda item 11.1.
Approve the annexation initial future land use map designation for 1721 El Trinidad Drive East.
Good afternoon, Dylan Prince, Planning and Development. This voluntary annexation petition involves a 0.16 acre parcel of land occupied by a detached dwelling. The property is located at 1721 El Trinidad Drive East. The property owner is requesting annexation in order to receive sanitary sewer and solid waste service from the city. Staff analysis has determined that this annexation petition is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the community development code and is recommending approval. Any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none. Agenda item 11.2.
Approve the annexation initial future land use map designation of residential RU for 1821 Douglas Avenue.
Good afternoon, Dylan Prince, Planning and Development. This voluntary annexation petition involves a 0.458 acre property consisting of one parcel of land occupied by a detached dwelling. The property is located at 1827 Douglas Avenue. The property owner is requesting annexation or receive solid waste service from the city. In addition, the Development Review Committee is proposing that the 0.80 acres of the adjacent Douglas Avenue right-of-way, not currently within the city's boundaries, also be annexed at this, along with this parcel. Staff analysis determined that this annexation petition is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and community development code, and recommends approval. Any questions?
Any questions on this agenda item? All right, hearing and seeing none, agenda item 11.3.
Approve the annexation initial future land use map designation residential urban for Sylvan Drive.
Good afternoon again, Dylan Prince, Planning and Development. This voluntary annexation petition involves a 0.448 acre parcel consisting of one parcel of vacant land. The property is unaddressed and located on Sylvan Drive. The property owner is requesting annexation in order to receive solid waste and water service from the city. Of note, this property is currently not contiguous to existing city boundaries, but will be once the case I presented before is annexed into the city. It will be contiguous at that time. Staff analysis has determined this annexation petition is consistent with the comprehensive plan and community development code and is recommending approval. Any questions?
Questions or comments on this agenda? Hearing and seeing none. Agenda item 11.4.
Approve the annexation initial future land use map designation of residential low for 2135 Pleasant Parkway.
Good afternoon, Jamie Lobko, Planning and Development. This is a voluntary annexation for a .637 acre property at 2135 Pleasant Parkway. The applicant's requesting annexation to receive sanitary sewer and solid waste. The annexation is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the community development code as detailed in the memo.
Questions or comments from the council? Hearing and seeing none, thank you. Agenda item 11.5.
Update to the city's implementation of the Live Local Act zoning presumptions, or preemptions, rather.
Is that-
You're welcome to talk about healthcare if you'd like.
No, I'm good, thank you. It is not up here. All right, we will wing it without the presentation. Okay, on March 29th of 2023, Governor DeSantis signed into law Senate Bill 102, which is commonly called the Live Local Act. It was to provide incentives to construct affordable and workforce housing throughout the state with the aim of helping people live in the communities where they work. The act became a law on July 1st, 2023. The provisions of the Live Local Act introduced state-mandated things for affordable housing in areas zoned for commercial, industrial, and mixed use. So to be eligible for this, a project must set aside at least 40% of their total units as rental units to be income eligible, which is at or below 120% of our area median income for a period of 30 years. For developments that meet those criteria, we are required to allow the multifamily or the mixed-use development as an allowable use in our commercial, industrial, or mixed-use zoning districts. And there are statutory parameters regarding density, height, and certain parking standards. So while the Act does preempt local government's regulations and zoning, density, and height for certain uses, other of our city standards will still apply. So in this year's legislative session, Senate Bill 328 was introduced to update the Live Local Act. And that's, we'll go over some of the provisions of that. The first thing is they moved the word rental around. It was misleading as to where it was. So they want to make sure that the 40% of your total units are the rental units, that not the whole development's required to be rental units. So what that means is once you have your 40% of your rental units that are affordable, the remainder of the development can be market rate rental or for sale units. The second thing is they added floor area ratio in there as part of the allowable intensity restriction for a residential or mixed-use development. In most cases, density, your units per acre, is going to dictate your number of units you're going to get on a property. But our US 19 district does allow you to use floor area ratio when you're developing in residential. So what this will do is it requires that we cannot restrict to an FAR below 150% of the highest currently allowed floor area ratio for an eligible project. So in our US 19 district, the FAR would be 3.75 for an eligible project. And that's the only district that would apply to. They made a change to the height protections, and this was really for single-family neighborhoods. So at this point, the Senate Bill 102 said you can build to the highest height within 1 mile of the property. Well, in some areas that can be significant in height for the city of Clearwater. So what they did was they said if your property that you're proposing to put this project on is adjacent on 2 sides to single-family development that is 25 lots or more, contiguous 25 lots of single-family development, that your height's going to be restricted to the highest of the following. You can get 150% of the tallest building on an adjacent property, the tallest that's currently allowed by your zoning district, or 3 stories. So it's kind of going to limit what you can put next to a single-family property. They added a new parking restriction that will require the reduction in off-street parking by at least 20% for one of these projects if they are located within a half mile of a major transportation hub. They have parking available within 600 feet of the project site through on-street parking, parking lots, or parking garages, or if they're in a mixed-use project in a transit-oriented development, which we don't have in the city, so that would not apply here. They added language that the Live Local Act doesn't preclude any project from receiving other development bonuses when it comes to density, intensity, or height. But it does specify that should you apply for an additional bonus, that has to be done through an administrative process without further action by the government. There was one clarification when it comes to the maximum density, intensity, and height that was across the board. They added the highest currently allowed language to it. They wanted to clarify that if we happen to change what's currently allowed, that it would, the highest currently allowed right now is what they want you to use for this, in case you happen to lower it. And also note that the highest currently allowed density wouldn't include, like if we get a project that's approved through Live Local Act, or we give a bonus for something for density, that would not allow them to build to something higher. That would not be included in what we're looking at for the highest currently allowed. Clarification in the parking reduction, they did change, this was one that is a may, that you can, we may reduce the required off-street parking if a development is within a 1/4 mile of a transit stop. It used to be 1/2 mile of a major transit stop, so now they've changed it to 1/4 mile of a transit stop. And lastly, it provides for nonconformity, for us to grandfather in the projects. So even after Live Local is done in their period of 30 years, those projects will not become nonconforming just because they're too high or too dense or too intense. They will remain conforming uses within the city. So Senate Bill 328 was signed into law in May of 2024 and is in effect right now. The bill requires that we maintain a policy and procedures and expectations for administrative approval on our website. So after Senate Bill 102 was done, we did start to draft that, and it was created. We do have a Live Local Act page, and we have already updated that page with the provisions of Senate Bill 328, so we are in compliance with that.
Questions? Do you see, we're getting ready to, Senator Hooper was here earlier, and to go to Tallahassee and make potential requests for changes that they might make to various legislation, including Live Local, and there have been other issues that have come up that municipalities have had to address. Is there anything that you see that could be challenging for our planning staff in the way this first legislation was passed?
I think that we all continue to be concerned with the use of industrial land and the loss of that for employment-related uses with potential residential use. I think that would probably be the biggest concern.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Questions, comments?
Stay tuned.
Okay. Thank you. With that, it's already 3:30, so we've been at this 2 hours, so I'm going to just take a 5-minute recess. Call the meeting back to order, and this time we'll move to agenda item 12.1.
Approve submerged land lease between the state of Florida and the city of Clearwater.
Good afternoon, Council. Mike McDonald, Marine and Aviation Director. We're asking you to approve a submerged lands lease with the state of Florida for the shared docking facility adjacent to the beach recreational facility. The facility has been operating under a submerged land lease with the state since April 30th, 2019. This lease, along with the agreement that the city has with the SAMPRO, allows the facility to operate 15-day dock slips for the public to use free of charge and 27 private slips for the SAMPRO to lease out privately. Taxes and fees are paid to the state for those leases, and the SAMPRO reimburses the city for that liability. Our current agreement with SAMPRO runs through April 30th, 2029. All costs associated with the facility, including maintenance costs, are SAMPRO's responsibility. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on this agenda? Okay. Do we have consent?
Yes.
We have consent on agenda item 12.1. Thank you. Agenda item 13.1.
Council members, staff has pulled this item. It'll come back at a future meeting.
Agenda item 13.2.
Authorize the continuing use of construction contracts for the following contractors: Engineered Spray Solutions, Inliner Solutions, Roland Inc., and USSI LLC.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Rich Gardner, Director of Public Utilities. The item before you today is for the continuing use of point repair contracts. I would like to present the wastewater collection system background, master plan, and point repair contract overview with a brief summary and benefits. The city's collection system is made up of 8,300 manholes, 370 miles of gravity sewer, 73 lift stations, 38 miles of force main, and it's subdivided into 3 basins for each of the wastewater reclamation facilities, East, Marshall Street, and Northeast. We completed the wastewater collection system master plan in 2021, and it acts as a guide for recommended maintenance and capital improvements of the collection system. The master plan estimated costs through 2030 and beyond for capacity-related improvements as well as renewal and replacement projects. The point repair contracts that we are discussing today are focused on renewal and replacement projects for the water reclamation facility basins. The recommended renewal and replacement costs to 2030 are approximately $100 million for gravity sewer mains, $37 million for manholes, $11 million for lift stations, and another $11 million for lift station force mains. To assist and oversee this work, we've retained a wastewater collection system program consultant engineer through a separate contract. That separate contract fee is $18.7 million over 6 years. The consultant was selected in 2021, and Hazen and Sawyer, the consultant, provides management and oversight of the city's contractors for this project. There are 6 point repair contracts totaling $21.5 million for the new fiscal year. The consultant also manages the other components of the program, such as wastewater collection system program prioritization and tracking, hydraulic modeling, designs for things like new pipelines, capacity increases, and pipeline relocations, coordination with the lift station and water reclamation facility programs. Group A contract, the first of the 6 point repair contracts, is trenchless sewer reconstruction or pipelining. Trenchless reconstruction is also referred to as cured in place or CIPP. It does not involve digging, so it's less expensive and less intrusive option compared to traditional pipe replacement. It can extend the lifespan of sewers 50 to 100 years. The Group A contractor is Inliner. Here's an example of a pipe that we rehabbed. The before view on the left shows cracks in the clay pipe, and the after view shows cracks are covered, and smooth surfaces. The current fiscal budget was $5 million for pipelining. Of that, approximately $1.5 million was utilized, or 34,000 feet of pipe were lined. The reason we didn't spend all the budget was because the contractor had capacity issues. We believe we resolved the capacity issues and are recommending $3 million for the new contract year. Group B includes line cleaning and closed circuit TV inspections, or CCTV. CCTV is used to identify problems and where repairs are needed. Debris such as grease or sand will affect flow in the pipes and cause issues like SSOs, or sanitary sewer overflows. These issues can be prevented with regular cleanings. Contractor B for Group B is also in liner. They are competitive in both groups because pipes have to be cleaned and CCTV before they're lined. The year 2 budget for Group 2 was $2 million. The contractor only completed $250,000 of this, again, because of capacity issues. Those issues have been resolved, and the budget for the new fiscal year is the same as the current fiscal year. Group C, emergency, non-emergency repairs. This group includes repairs of individual pipe leaks and installation and replacement of service laterals, manhole, and the entire gravity main. The contract covers most non-specialized typical utility repair work, and the contractor is Roland. The current fiscal year's budget is $15 million. Of that, approximately $8 million has been utilized. At least 65 point repairs have been completed, and we're recommending $11 million for year 3. Group D covers rehabilitation related to cleanouts and laterals. Our work is limited to those portions that reside in the city right-of-way. Property owners are responsible for work performed on their property. Contractor for Group D is also Roland. The Group D contract includes rehab of laterals by lining them where feasible, which is the most cost-effective, is more cost-effective than outright replacement. Full replacement of a service lateral typically costs about 5 times more than just lining it. Similar to the CIPP of Section A, this process results in a new pipe within a pipe. Laterals and their connections to the sewer are a primary contributor of I&I. This rehab work removes this as a source of I&I, infiltration and inflow. This process is also less invasive than traditional placement, which requires excavation. By removing the need for digging, there's less disruption to the surrounding area. As depicted in the photo on the above left, using lateral lining avoids road closures and repairs that can drive up costs and impede traffic. The current year's budget for cleanouts and sewer laterals is $6 million. Approximately $500,000 was utilized for 175 laterals. Lining is more cost efficient than full replacement and can help reduce I&I. The year 3 recommendation is $2 million. Group E is manhole resurfacing. Manholes are coated with spray-on lining. The lining protects against corrosion and degradation as well as adding structural strength. Lining extends the performance life for another 40 or 50 years. The Group E contractor is Engineer Sprayed Solutions. The current year's budget is $3 million. We were able to use all of it. At least 367 manholes were coated, 242 frame and corbel connections were resealed, and at least 2,000 feet of injection grouting was installed. We're recommending $3 million for year 3. Group F, smoke testing, is a controlled release of non-toxic smoke into sections of the wastewater collection system. Breaks and improper connections are identified where smoke seeps out to the surface. Dye testing verifies the flow path of the wastewater to help identify where a leak may be coming from. Group F contractor is USSI. Our current budget was $750,000. Of that, 580,000 was utilized. 1.2 million feet of pipe was smoke testing, and we're recommending 500,000 for year 3. A summary of what we've done in the first 2 years of these contracts is Group A, cured and placed pipe, we completed 87,000 feet, or 4% of the system. Group B, closed circuit TVing, another 87,000 feet, 4% of the system. Group C, wastewater collection system repairs, we completed 195 repairs. Lateral repairs, Group D, we completed 193, or 0.6% of the system. Group E, manhole coating, we completed 612, or 7% of the system. Smoke dye testing, we completed 297 miles, or 73% of the system. You should have told me I was falling behind. We have 6 contracts totaling $21.5 million. The contracts provide for emergency and non-emergency repairs and preventative maintenance. The contracts will be rebid after 2 years. Each year, the renewal is approved by council. And capital projects are still bid separately and brought to council separately for approval. Preventative maintenance reduces new construction and emergency work. It reduces I&I over time by eliminating cracks, root intrusions, and other defects. Reducing I&I reduces flow to treatment plants and prevents accumulation of solids in the sewers that reduces sewer capacity. Reduce overflow risks by removing causes of backups and reduces potential for backups into households and prevents regulatory fines. It also identifies part of the system being priority focused and protects public health and safety. We're asking for your approval for the continuing use of the point repair contracts, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on this agenda item?
I don't have a question, more of a statement. Thank you very much, Rich. I think this is extremely important that, we invest in our infrastructure and the way that we're going forward with things. I would just like to challenge staff just to continue looking for grants and ways to think outside of the box to offset these costs so that we can transfer those offset costs to savings to our residents. So thank you very much.
Any other comments on this agenda item? Hearing, seeing none, do we have consent?
Yep.
We have consent on agenda item 13.2. Thank you. Agenda item 14.1.
14.1, Mayor, is second readings. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on agenda item 14.1? You're seeing none, agenda item 14.2.
As of 14.1, also second reading.
Any questions on this one? Good. Move to agenda item 15. Yep. Agenda item 15, City Manager verbal reports.
So I certainly don't want to steal any thunder from the council in terms of the events that we had this weekend, so I won't go into any detail other than to say that it was a very busy weekend with a variety of events where we got to celebrate successes of both some employees and business leaders and communities, as well as recognize the loss of one of our own. And to be able to go through that with the staff and with the council with the support and do that all together has been greatly rewarding. And the feedback that I've gotten from the community and the staff in terms of just that level of support has been noted. And so I want to thank the council and our staff and the community for that. That's it.
Yeah. Agenda item 16, City Attorney verbal reports.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Okay. Agenda item 17.1, Vice Mayor Albritton.
Yes, I asked to put this on the agenda. We took a pause a little while ago for public comments, and we really hadn't had a chance to talk more about this. I'd like to extend that pause till the end of the year. We got a pretty busy fall coming up, and we're going to be out of town for a while. So I'd like to extend it to the end of the year. I'd like to talk about that. Anybody have any comments on that?
Councilmember Cutton?
I will agree that it's been quieter since that has been put into place. However, I still stand by my original comments from the original time that we put these in place. I think that this is the one time where, other than an email or a phone call to us separately, where constituents can come, speak to their elected officials, and hire city staff all at one point in time. So I, again, would be against it.
City Attorney, and then I asked you yesterday, and City Clerk, when it expires, and it doesn't expire until November, right?
That's correct, Mayor. Or at least the first meeting in November will be the first time for that public comment to return. And that's a point I wanted to make, which is that we're talking about public comment here, and the Vice Mayor is talking about it. We're talking about items that are not on the agenda. For anything that's on the agenda, citizens have a statutory right in Florida to either remove items from consent if they're on consent, or to be heard for a resolution, ordinance, or any other voting item for council. So just to be clear, I think the Vice Mayor is only talking about items that are not on the agenda. The only other comment I have is that if the council does elect to continue the temporary pause through the end of the calendar year, or for that matter, any other duration the council chooses, because that is a temporary pause or a temporary measure that is a departure from our current rules, it does require supermajority to approve. So there will have to be at least 4 council members in agreement in order to make a temporary extension, if that's the will of the council.
Councilmember Teixeira?
I would be in support of continuing. You know, you touched on all the events that we've gone to and all the outreach initiatives that we've been doing out there. And this was certainly one of the conversations I've had with many of the citizens. And I was actually quite pleased with how much support we got. And some of them even said, we're coming back to the meetings now. We feel safer, we feel it's a better environment, and they also feel that they can communicate on items not on the agenda in various other ways. So I'm in support of continuing it, the pause.
Councilmember Menino?
Yeah, this was challenging for all of us to make a decision as we went through that process, and by no means was it easy on any of us, and I know that because how much we value our citizens' input in the process of governing. And I think at the forefront of it, it was about safety. It was about lowering the climate in City Hall so our residents felt safe to come voice their opinions, but as well as staff felt safe to do their jobs. And I think that, you know, that measure, though it's been short and temporary, I feel that it has worked. Again, I'm in support of it as I was. I would, you know, comment that when we made that decision, we all sat here and said, making this decision, we acknowledge that we all must do things a bit differently to overcome some of the challenges that the citizens might have for voicing their thoughts and opinions. And I commend all of you on doing that. You've opened up your phones to anybody's welcome to call. We've gave our word to any of the homeowners associations meetings that at their request, we will ensure that one of us at least will be there. I thank city staff for the notes and the updates from every single homeowners association meeting that we do get those updates, very detailed. I greatly appreciate that. And I have had a lot of feedback as well from citizens commending council and staff on how quickly and responsive you've all been, and we all have been, to emails, to phone calls. So we are, you know, working diligently and hard behind the scenes to ensure that those voices are heard, because they do mean a lot to all of us. So I am in support, and my support would be to continue it indefinitely until we get to a place where we feel safe and we need to reinstall it and revisit it again.
Agreed.
Well, a couple things. One, I personally would be inclined to put it on in October, to give it another 30 days, but there's no reason to go ahead and make this decision now. We put it on the October agenda, correct? So.
We could, but one of our council members is not at that meeting.
I was going to save that for the formal council meeting during my time to speak, but I did have a conflict with a business trip, so I will not be at either the work session or the formal council meeting in October.
Well, we only need 4 votes. I think we're 4 aligned, and you've certainly made your comments known. So I would think we'd put it off to October to not make the decision until we have to. I don't know if anything will change in the next period of time, what might happen tomorrow night that could change things, but personally, I think we should probably put it off to October. The other thing I'd like to say is, I've had the same experience other council members have. To a person, Clearwater citizens, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They just were tired of, we had 3 Clearwater citizens come here today and speak on the CRA agenda. That they're fine with that. But these folks coming in from way outside Clearwater to not really address local issues, to kind of put on a show. They have thanked me repeatedly, even Saturday at the pier when I was there for the fishing tournament. I had somebody come up to me and thank me for this. Creating an environment where folks like today feel welcome to come in and speak on agenda items before the agenda. So I think I've gotten nothing but positive feedback from our citizens on it. And we all know, the 5 of us, that it hasn't stopped anybody from sharing their thoughts. We get emails, 2 of them, one of them still here today on the CRA agenda today, write to us every day almost, and some of them call us all the time. And honestly, we get back, I do, and I think the rest of you do, we respond to everybody, particularly a first-time contact on something not on the agenda. I responded to one last night on some, out on the east end of town where they felt like the street needed to be cleaned better and wanted to know what we can do with that regard. And in today's world, with all the different ways to not just communicate with us, but through social media, and we know that we've had folks through here, this is like the worst platform you could have to either persuade us or to tell the world how you feel about items not on the agenda. Just general statements about what concerns you have about Clearwater. Many more effective ways, including reaching out to us directly, which we know many do, and many have. So I think we ought to put it to October to give it a little bit more time personally to that agenda. But as of today, I've not seen it eliminate anybody's right or opportunity or ability to share with the world what their thoughts are, including us. And frankly, the more effective way is to have a conversation with us, like we have had conversations with many, and I haven't seen it reduce any of that. I've spoken with some of the folks who have come from far away to appear at this council meeting on that items not on the agenda. Spoke with one of them 3 weeks ago by telephone. So there are all kinds of ways in today's world to communicate, and I feel like it has, I agree with the other council members, it has dropped the tone a little bit, the tension in these meetings, allowed us to conduct our business more efficiently, allowed the staff to feel more comfortable in attending, and citizens feel more comfortable and safe in attending. So I think if we were voting tomorrow night, I would vote for it. And it sounds like there may be 3 others that would too. But I'm just wondering if maybe we should put it off to October just to give it an extra meeting to see how it plays out.
So again, I don't disagree with the way that meetings have been going, and I do not necessarily believe that we're stepping on any citizens' toes or First Amendment rights, because you can't speak to agenda items, and we've allowed that to happen. Again, it just comes to me believing that should somebody have an issue and they don't feel like they're getting the proper response from whoever it is that they're talking to, this is the one form in which they're able to do that with 5 to a max of 10 minutes. I understand the negative cloud that has followed this from the previous council to other things. I just think that's rolling with the punches, essentially, if I'm being just blatantly honest, right? Max of 10 minutes, say what you need to say and go. It's just my personal feelings. Again, I acknowledge the safety of people that might feel safer here because those presences aren't here. The tone has definitely lowered. Meetings have been more efficient. It just comes back to me thinking that if somebody wants to redress us, they should be able to do that, no matter what. So that's all.
So what's the direction here?
Well, I think
Staff? Do we
that,
want to put it on for the tomorrow night, or do we want to?
Did you want to speak up? I'm fine with doing it in October. We have one meeting in October, though, October 3rd. So it's a couple weeks away. We can go ahead and discuss it again at that point if you'd like. I'm fine with that. I didn't know we had till the beginning of November, so I just wanted to also say that we're not the only city that's looking at this. It's happening all across Florida right now. Different councils, different organizations are looking at how they're going to respond to it as well. So I'm fine with talking about it on the 3rd, if you'd like to do that.
Councilmember Marino?
Okay. First, obviously, the situation that recently happened in Dallas still weighs on a lot of our community's hearts and minds, and not just our police families. So I don't want us to, in essence, feel comfortable or lower our guard and think, oh, we're past that because we've had a couple successful meetings, because I don't believe that that we are there. My issue with delaying it until October, I don't think that's fair to do in respect to Mr. Cotton and his position, as well as I think it might, the optics in our community of us taking a vote with the one person who's leaning in the opposite direction and not being there for that vote. I don't know if that is the best look for us, when I think we're in a position, we know our stance is probably not going to change between now and then. We've visited this today and put it on an agenda. We've opened that door. I prefer, but I will go whatever direction this board feels, but I would prefer that we handle this tomorrow, that we move forward with this, and we do it with respect to having a full council.
I like that direction, I really do. I don't think anything's going to change from now to October. The hateful emails continue towards our staff and ourselves, so that's not going to change. What has changed is the response of the citizens and the quality of the meetings. And I do want Councilmember Cotton to have an official vote and voice his opinion. So I'm ready to do it tomorrow. I agree with that sentiment.
It's up to you, Mayor.
If that's the majority of the council, I'm fine.
How do you
with that.
feel?
Yeah, that's fine.
I just,
Okay.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that would work.
Would you prefer that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, then it'll be, officially, I understand 100% what you're saying with the one dissenting vote and the potential optics, and I agree, nothing's really going to change between now and October, I mean, it's not that I don't disagree with any of you. I see it firsthand. It's just those are where my sentiments lie and where I'm probably going to stay on that issue.
And that's respected. Yeah, it is respected.
well, let's put it on tomorrow night. Okay. All right, move to agenda item 17.2. Councilmember Teixeira.
So I'm part of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, and every meeting we always have presentations and educating on what's going on regionally. And so last month was an overview of a study regarding the Port of Tampa. And I know that it's in Tampa, but it's really has an impact on our city. The Port of Tampa is responsible for 35 million tons of cargo going in and out. Huge impact on local markets and continues to expand. It is a gateway of energy products. It's a hub for shipbuilding and repair, major cruise home port, and responsible for $17 billion in economic impact, supporting 85,000 jobs in Central Florida. So that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's important to share this study overview that they're looking at, specifically addressing two major issues. One is transportation inefficiencies of the port and the maneuverability concerns. And this all affects the port negatively in efficiency and such. So they're looking at two major objectives. One is to reduce marine transportation, and secondary is to support habitat creation and increase recreational opportunities through maximizing the beneficial use of dredge material. So in their efforts to widen and deepen the port to make bigger ships come in and out without having to back out and making it more efficient, they also had a secondary goal, which was how can we use all that dredged material to give back to the environment? And so that was impressive to me. And some of the things that they were really focusing on were species of concern. So for example, the nesting sea turtles, they're actually going to create a habitat at Egmont Key and Fort DeSoto. They're looking at creation of seagrass habitats for manatees and actually relocating that dredging material to almost a dozen different locations, creating aquatic habitats and beach nourishment and such. So it's good that this is happening. It's going to make the port more efficient. It's going to have a positive economic impact, but it's also contributing to our environment. And so I just wanted to bring you guys up to speed to that.
Thank you. Questions from council member? Okay, thank you for that good report. Item 17.3, Councilmember Cotton.
Yes, I asked staff to work on downtown parking rates and event parking. If you all were able to look over the PowerPoint, we can see where we're at now, the different lots that we have downtown, how many spaces we have, and really to increase the rate at which we're paying right now from what it is to still being very reasonable across the board with our sister cities and other places within our region, especially when we have events and things like that going on. So I don't know if...
Hello, Jeremy Oshouse, parking manager.
Perfect.
I've been asked to come up and give a presentation on our parking rates for downtown. Hopefully I've hit the mark on this one. How do I get it up on the... You do that. That's good. All right. Well, maybe not. Here we go. Okay, so currently downtown, we're 50 cents an hour, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. There is an exception there. The new Pier Street lot at the bottom of the hill, closest to the harbor, is the marina, I'm sorry, is it runs 7 days a week, and it's $2 an hour. Event parking is free on city. Most of our events occur evenings and weekends, so therefore they're not even subject to this. So our parking has been free during events. So we're positing the question, well, what would it look like, low-hanging fruit, if we just had an event rate? So the locations that we would look at, here's the ones listed: Garden Avenue Garage, Lot 11, Station Square, the MSC Garage, the lower levels only because the police department likes to have some access to the upper levels uninterrupted. Pier Street Lot, Old City Hall Lot, all that total is approximately, and you see I've adjusted them. Basically, all of those have people that are parking in them all the time anyway. So, some more than others. Most of them empty out in the evening times. So that's what the adjusted means there. There's approximately 815 spaces total here, easily to utilize for this purpose. There's also some on-street considerations. I want to go too far down a rabbit hole with that. Usually in a municipal setting, we like to leave on-street parking is kind of, there's a science behind it. The on-street parking would typically be at a higher rate than your off-street rates. And the idea there is the on-street parking is a little bit more preferable, so therefore maybe a little bit more valuable. So we would entice people with a lower rate to go into our parking facilities, our garages, our lots, and that kind of stuff. Right now we're 50 cents an hour across the board, so we really don't have that. My concern there is I don't really want to charge people on street because those are the folks that might be stopping by to grab, frequent a business that's downtown or whatever, and so you don't want them paying a higher rate just to do that. Is there a possibility that then they're coming to an event and they park there and they take the thing up for the whole time of the event? Yes, that's a possibility. There's different tactics that we use to combat that. One of the things is you time it. So you can park on the street at the rate, but you're limited to a couple hours. So if you're going to an event, you wouldn't be able to stay there because you'd have to leave before the end of your event or face getting a ticket. And I keep hitting the wrong button. What did I do? Sorry.
Go down.
I'm trying to make this fast because I know it's late in the day. I apologize. Anyway, so these are the locations here highlighted on this that we're talking about. So when would we do this? Baycare of the Sound, thank you. They have, we'd only do it for events that had at least 2,000 attendees. And over the last year, there was about 30 events that qualified. There was a lot of smaller ones, but only 30 that had 2,000 or more attendees. We apply the special event rate, and we're suggesting $10 an hour. Why $10 an hour? There's a lot of folks out there charging 20 on private lots. I don't like to be the most expensive game in town, so priced reasonably compared to what the civilian market is or the private market. So anyway, and how that would happen, we just impose that 2 hours before the event starts. It would go up to a flat rate. So if you came into any of our facilities, it would be at that $10 an hour. What that would look like, just real simply, all the locations with the number of spaces times 10, how much they could collect daily is up there for you now, and how much they would collect for the year for 30 events. And I do know that this is optimistic because a lot of these locations, especially like the MSC Garage, they're getting filled up on the fireworks and things like that. If it's just a concert with only 2,000 people, that's the last facility that's going to be utilized. There's still also considerations for the county, still has their parking that they open up to the public as well, and they don't charge for that, so that would be more enticing than ours. I do think the Garden Avenue Garage, it's close, it's proximal, it's a prime location, so I do think that we could, literally make that $60-some thousand for the year by implementing this. I think that one would get filled relatively quickly. Why would we do it? And again, kind of to address, I think, some of the things that Councilmember Cotton is asking about. We've got a lot of expenses coming up, and so this increasing our rates there. Last year we were $560,000 downtown is what we earned, and citywide, the beach, all total we were like 11 million. So you can see that it's really significant. The downtown is obviously lagging behind where everything else is. So it's not really it hasn't totally activated yet. I will say this though, we did see a definite jump from the year before the Sound was opened until the year after, about $70,000 increase. So that was a pretty good thing to see. And hopefully it's going to keep on climbing for us, for all of us. So also, we want to offset the cost of overtime parking for the staff. We have to have staff come out during parking events, put out signage and that kind of stuff, and also generate revenue for our future projects like the Osceola Garage, and all this stuff has to be maintained. A couple of years ago, we maintained the MSC Garage, and it was over $1 million just in maintenance. How do we do it? Again, just the same way you're paying for parking currently with either on the Park Mobile app or with the Flowbird meters or apps, the kiosks that are out there. They would just be programmed that at this date, at this time, it goes from 50 cents an hour to $10. And then when the event is over, it goes back to its regular programming. Hopefully I hit some of your points that you're looking for, sir.
No, for sure. I will state, thank you for putting in the work. I do appreciate it. And this is just like the start to see where we can go with this. I think it would be smart and advantageous. As alluded to, you go to a Rays game or something like that, you're paying a minimum of $20 if you know where that lot's at. If not, it goes up to $25, $30. So just to see where your all's thoughts are.
Vice Mayor.
Well, they thought we would agree on everything when we talked. You started running, but no, I think that it's a little early. I know we're a year into it, a little over a year since we opened the Sound, and I think that's a way we can go, but I think it's a little too early. I'd like to see us get a little further in the parking garage coming up on Osceola, and when that happens, I think it'd be enough time where we can look at the rates and say, okay, let's go ahead and do it. I like the being able to adjust park mobile rates for events and then it come back down afterwards. But one of the biggest complaints that I've had over the years, and maybe it's just because I've had it for years, is where do you park in downtown Clearwater? Well, we got lots of parking places that you just showed. And, most of them after 6 o'clock are free. So I think if we leave that for a little while longer, it wouldn't hurt me to do that. Maybe in a year or so, we can really start talking about bringing it up to market rate, which everybody else seems to be charging $20, to park your car for an event. Just my thought.
So I think downtown is still struggling and it needs everything to incentivize people to come. So I'm not in support of after 6 on a regular night, right? But on events, you actually brought up some good points. This is added staffing, right? And we are looking for multiple streams of income. It's with attached to all those extra expenses of having the sound. So I'm open to thinking about this in terms of event nights only of over 2,000. I think that's an option that's worth looking into, as long as we don't touch on regular nights after 6. I don't think downtown Clearwater is there yet, that we don't need that incentive, because we do have other cities right next door that do have free parking in downtown. So I am open to events only. I think it's an idea worth looking into.
Councilmember Marino?
Okay, I appreciate you putting this discussion on, and thank you for the time you put into it. Very, very helpful. Paid parking is definitely something that we want to get our citizens to give us input, talk about paid parking, and they'll get involved. I think we could look just to the north, our sister city, Dunedin, just went through very similar discussions about paid parking, not just special events kind of thing. And the citizens overwhelmingly spoke completely against it in a different city, and they went that route. I do recognize that we are solely discussing a special event downtown, which is different. I also recognize where we are as a city in our downtown and doing, it seems like, everything we can to increase attendance and engagement and awareness. I would have questions on how do we expect a show to be 2,000? I mean, we have people pitch us things on special events downtown and at the Sound all the time, and I think we all look at the numbers and estimated attendance and we are like, no way we're going to get that many people. Or so how do we plan for estimating, well, this event falls in that, and then, there's 1,200 people that show up and, it's mainly empty, and yet we're charging, $10. I know citizens would also say, can citizens get discounts and rates? Are those things that can apply to their park mobile apps as a resident? There is a discounted rate versus non-residents. I think those are things that should probably go into the discussion, but I do appreciate it. I mean, we've sat here for months and we've identified we have to find ways to drive additional streams of income within our city without relying on the citizens through a tax rate and without being so reliant on our ad valorem property taxes. So I appreciate staff's legwork on giving us an option and a stream, and it's definitely an interesting one. To be honest, it's a tough one. That is a tough one where we're at today. Special events and a large sold out one, I can see that, but identifying where that threshold is, how many people are going to be there, that is a challenge, but I would prefer to see a resident discounts.
I'll weigh in just real quick and then I'll come back to you. So I'm not totally opposed to the idea. When I go to the MLA Arena for a Lightning game, I park in the Fort Brooke garage. The city of Tampa charges, I think, $20, $25 for the parking. I don't think twice about it. I'm going to the Lightning game, I don't care. I'm going to go to the Lightning game as I want to go to the Lightning game, and parking's that's just part of it. So I don't know, though, that our venue is the same as Amley Arena. same attraction as the Lightning game, which is going to have 16,000 people there. And so I could see it being justified for a handful of events we've had in the past year at this end, but probably less than a half dozen have been the size where I think it would have been appropriate for it. Hopefully, the schedule will be more robust coming up in the next year, and they'll have more larger events with more well-known acts, which might justify that. So I'm not totally against it. I think it would be easier for us to do this once the Osceola Garage is built and in place. I'm a little bit concerned with the vice mayor that maybe we're now is a little too early when we're really trying hard to get people downtown, and we just need to make it as attractive as we can. But eventually, I think as we get more well-known, when people really are, kind of fighting for tickets to get down there to see certain acts, I think that this could make sense, and maybe even on a trial basis for those really large events with really well-known acts, we could try it. But I would be hesitant to go too early because I'm just not sure we're at the point yet where we have the attractive venue to draw large crowds, which really justifies that. Those large events, though, that they've had over there, Diana Ross in Chicago was one of the biggest ones they had over there. I mean, neighbors around us were all charging $20 or more for parking, so to charge something more than, anything more than what we're doing now would be, would seem fair. But I think it's just a half dozen events probably at this point that this would apply to.
Yeah, and I'm not against it, I just think it's a little early, as like the mayor said. When we do, if we decide to go and do market rate parking, we've really got to mark it up, make sure everybody knows if they're pulling into this garage, how much it is,
Oh, yes.
It needs to be advertised right there, instead of relying on just pulling an amp up or something. I mean, you could do that, but pretty much in the other bigger cities, they're marked. You know what you're going to pay when you
$10
come in.
event rate, yes, sir, absolutely, without a doubt.
So again, this was just to get the ball rolling, just to see where your all's head was at. Even throwing out pricing, $10 was a fair place to start. I think it's below average, but again, just to try and get what our thought process is I don't even know if this is potential, but maybe it's just a $15 flat rate at a certain time. Boom, it's that for the event. Something along those lines is where my head was, seeing as how events will come down. Fair points made by each of you, and I completely agree with all of them. Just something that I was trying to think outside of the box to something that we could do going in the future.
Yeah, if we do an event parking, it's a flat fee. I mean, it would be
exactly
$20. You park your car if it's a 4-hour event, you're covered. So you look at it that way, it's a lot less than $20 per hourly, but it's an event price, and I think that's the way it probably ought to go.
If we do eventually go to this, we just need to be careful about the messaging too, because we all know how it goes. We announce that we're going to do this for events, and then the public hears, oh, they're charging parking now for parking downtown Clearwater. There's no free parking. And so even though it's not the case, the impression is they hear on the news, and then now we've got folks reluctant to come downtown in the evenings because they think we're charging for parking after 6. So we just have to be very careful about messaging it if we do it. So, okay.
Perfect.
Thank you
All
for
right,
letting me be
thank
part of
you.
the conversation,
Yeah.
and I'll be happy to address it any time in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Item 17.4, discuss city attorney 2025 goals.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's been a long afternoon already, so this will take no more than 5 hours. So by 9:30 this evening, I'm looking to wrap up my item, if that's okay. So just kidding. This one is pretty straightforward, but just to remind everyone, particularly because our current council, or new council majority was not in office when Resolution 23-19 was adopted. Last December, which is to say December of 2023, the council adopted Resolution 23-19, which requires both the city manager and city attorney to separately submit 1 to 3 annual goals to the city. This will actually be the first year that we are doing it because that resolution was passed in December of 2023, coming online for the next year. So this is literally the first time that we are putting together goals in this format. I know that previously we've had council members individually ask on a one-on-one basis for goals. Some council members prefer it in a different format than others, but now it is codified in the current resolution. So both the manager and I have done that for our respective goals. For mine on 17.4, they are attached. I know the council is aware because we've discussed them through one-on-one meetings, but just to briefly discuss them. Number 1 is a goal relating to litigation matters of particular interest. For obvious reasons, I am not naming the cases, but there are 7 particular litigation matters that we would like to focus on over this coming fiscal year. I know they're all matters that the council is familiar with individually, so no surprises on that one. My second goal relates to those transactional matters in which the city attorney's office plays an integral part. So just a comment in general about the city attorney's role when it comes to transactional matters. It really depends on the transaction. Some transactions are very simple. They really don't need a whole lot of involvement from legal, where they're using standard templates, standard terms, things of that nature. In those situations, legal's role is pretty much limited to making sure we've followed our proper ordinances, followed our proper processes, and there's not a whole lot for us to do. Other transactions on the far other end of the spectrum tend to increase our involvement. So at maximum complexity, we would have things like Gotham, the Phillies, certainly anything downtown, if we were to partner with downtown stakeholders, things of that nature are going to be customized to whatever the city is looking to achieve. So for the second goal, I was highlighting a couple of those transactions that I think need to come to fruition in this coming fiscal year. Certainly the harbor view portion of the Gotham project is first and foremost. If all goes well, we certainly hope to be closing on that portion of the real estate with the D'Annunzio Group by the end of this calendar year. If we do not close by the end of this calendar year, that means that something has gone awry, and we will need to talk about why that has happened. But the city attorney's office has already had some very good meetings with the buyer's attorneys, and we're actually going to be setting up regular meetings over the next couple months as we continue to check off boxes and think about what are the obstacles, what are the challenges we need to get through in order to have a successful closing. So that's going to be a big transaction. The other one that we're very involved with in the city attorney's office is collective bargaining. Per statute, the city manager, as our chief executive, is in charge of collective bargaining, but legal plays an integral role. Our chief assistant, as many of you know, is Owen Kohler from the city attorney's office. He is typically the lead negotiator for the city in partnership with HR director and operational staff, either from police, fire, or non-police fire for everyone else. So those are the matters that we'll be focusing on over this coming fiscal year. Obviously, we know a lot of things happen throughout the year that are unexpected, just because the nature of job being an attorney is sometimes we have to react to things that happen and respond to things that happen unexpectedly. But these are some big things that I can anticipate right now and say these are things that I know for sure that we need to do over the next fiscal year. Obviously, if new things come up throughout the fiscal year, we'll respond to those appropriately. That said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions for the city attorney? Ms. Goals?
I guess just a comment.
Okay.
I've been asked actually this weekend, what does a city attorney actually do? And so I had to like think a minute. But I took some notes. So on record, I'm going to tell those two people that asked me that. So basically, it's managing all legal matters for the city. So legal representation, legal advice, legal opinions, contract preparation, ordinance drafting, agreement negotiation, real estate transactions, and so forth. So I am addressing that question. Based on that, reviewing your goals, as we have every week, basically in some shape or form, they're in alignment with what it should be. So I'm okay with these goals.
Anybody else? Because I'm an attorney, I'll weigh in. I'm the nerd who reads the charter to see what the city attorney duties are, and that really guides my review of these. And I appreciate what the city attorney's put in writing here. The public should know that he saves us quite a bit of money by effectively trying to keep our risk down, resolving claims, preventing claims, giving us advice on how to navigate things to make sure we're, particularly contracts, development agreements, make sure we're not exposing ourselves to risk and costing the city money. So appreciate that. And that would be the other thing I would add to goals is, I know, and it'll be similar for the city manager, is that you and I even discussed ways we can rethink the legal department and how we outsource legal work, and maybe there might be some savings over a long haul to adjusting your staff to accommodate and maybe hire less outside counsel. So those are the things that are really important to me, and I think the other council members too, is just to manage the legal department for the city in a way that helps us save taxpayer money over time. Because as we all know, our budget has continued to grow with inflation over the years, every year, and it's become more important for us to find cost effectiveness and savings. And so appreciate your efforts in doing that. Okay. With that, we will move to item 17.5, discuss city manager goals.
Good afternoon. So David went through the process. I'll speak to specifically the goals. We all have individually had significant conversations about the goals as I was working on coming up with these. They're not in any particular order. I think they are all incredibly important. Going with number one regarding economic opportunities for Clearwater. So we're on the cusp. We have several things that are coming in, some that are brand new, and similar to what Dave is talking about. There are things that are not ready yet to be discussed at the dais in regards to economic development opportunities. But the ones that we know of, one of the biggest ones that we have is the county properties. And so there's an opportunity for the city to engage with that. It's a significant engagement. It would require a significant amount of staff resources to engage on that. And so looking for feedback in terms of if the council agrees that that is something that the city should focus on. It's an incredibly timely conversation. We're in the process of recruiting for an ACM. I know that several of our candidates are watching this meeting. It's a question that I got in every single one of those interviews. What are our goals? What are the things that you're going to want us to work towards? And so this conversation could not come at a better time. The second goal is related to the implementation of the strategic plan. I think that as an organization, we've done an incredible job about making that document being a living document that means something throughout the organization. I know when I am asked to go to the neighborhood association meetings, it's something that they want to talk about and something that they find a lot of value in. But the same thing applies to our staff. When I came on as city manager, one of the things that I heard resoundingly from the team is that we needed direction. They want to know who we are and what we're working towards. And I think this document has really allowed us to do that. How it specifically relates to the team and how it becomes a measurable for a SMART goal is that we have an annual work plan. And in January, the team will be bringing forward our recommendations in terms of what our strategic plan, the work plan, should be based on conversations that we've had, including these budget conversations, and we'll be presenting that in January, and then that would be the document that can be measured in terms of have we met those goals that the council has identified in terms of being priorities. So that is where it covers a majority of the things. Some of the things that the city attorney mentioned, like Philly's negotiations, a lot of the construction projects, our infrastructure projects, grants, all of those things are the types of things that are going to be in that document. You can certainly reference our current work plan, and I'll be sharing an update on that current work plan for this current year's strategic plan, work plan, so you can see in terms of how we've done. So the document matters. It is meaningful, and I think it provides an opportunity to cover a lot of different things that the team works on that is measurable. And then the last goal talks about making sure that we continue to have a focus on transparency, accountability, and efficiency. We talked about the vacancies. Our dashboards are something else that has become incredibly popular. We get a lot of requests for dashboards. And they will continue to grow in popularity as we use those to benchmark ourselves against ourselves, but then not only against ourselves, but against other municipalities as well. So that's another area, and that's also covered in the work plan, but wanted to just make sure, because of the attention focused on transparency and accountability, that it have its own goal. So I'm happy to answer any questions and look forward to the conversation and direction.
Okay. Questions, comments? Councilmember Munir?
Oh, you put your hand up first.
Ladies first.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I appreciate both. I think it's important that you, and I know you said it doesn't matter in any order, but identifying the first one and the economic opportunity, this opportunity of 24 acres, 17 buildings, and what could be over $1 billion development downtown. It is a pivotal and massive opportunity for our city. These things don't come across cities in entire generations. Years of cities don't have these opportunities, and especially a city like us with the beach we have and what we're trying to do downtown, with our challenges and restrictions on what we can control downtown and what we cannot, which has been stated multiple times on the dais. Having the opportunity to be in the driver's seat for 24 acres adjacent to an $84 million project on the water, connecting our downtown and our beach to the rest of our city, I don't think it can be underestimated. So I'm glad you put that on there. I do understand that puts you in a place of where you're making decisions on hiring and where we go forward as a city and with your staff. And I want you and your staff to know that I 100% support that direction, and I recognize the vital importance and opportunity that we have with this economic development with the county.
Councilmember Teixeira?
So one of my campaign promises was to really advocate for more an assertive, visionary role for the city in terms of economic development, rather than this, sit back and look kind of thing, more of an aggressive approach. I truly believe that economic development is a priority for every city because it facilitates creation of jobs, better quality of life, strengthens the community. It leads to higher paying jobs, which directly correlates with the decreased usage of or need of affordable housing, improves standards of living, hopefully helps keep our kids here instead of always running away to bigger cities. But the improved quality of life also includes, first responder services and parks and recs, and it just, the outreach is like a snowball effect. It also ensures a diverse and healthy tax base, and for us specifically, it facilitates us to try to maintain and fix our infrastructure, right? A healthy economy, diverse economy helps that. Also facilitates technological advancements, creates a healthy cycle of business growth. So economic development, in my mind, is a crucial part of our thriving city. So having it as one of your goals, to me, is imperative. With that in mind, Clearwater now is facing an opportunity that I think is once in a lifetime. I can't imagine another opportunity where we can have 17 properties in an isolated area where it lacks so much diversity, right? Because right now, this zone of 17 properties are basically in a zone where it's like basically the major stakeholder is institutional, city, county, and Church of Scientology. So to have these 17 properties become available at this time together is like playing one of those video games where we plan a city from scratch. What a wonderful opportunity. And so it is imperative to me that not only are we at the table with any conversation that occurs with what's happening with those properties, but our voices be heard. I would like to know, or at least communicate, where do we want an institution of higher learning? Affordable housing versus mixed, office building, retail. That's our city. We need to be at that table to have that conversation. Regarding your goal number 2, to me, the implementation of strategic plan, that's our way of checks and balance. If we stick to the plan, keep rechecking it and going back and forth and adapting, that's a way to ensure success. And then your goal number 3, that is one of the most consistently communicated conversations I have with citizens, and that is that transparency, accountability, and dashboards, like you said. So these goals are not a surprise to me. We've been talking about it for a year, to various degrees every week, but I support these goals, and I think we're on the right track.
Vice Mayor?
Well, I could say exactly the same thing that you two started with. And it is an exciting time. And, not only do we have the 17 properties of the county, but also we have these other properties that we've lined up that will fall right in place in that. I am so excited. We've got another couple of years to see that to fruition, which I'm really excited about. But, the landscape of downtown Clearwater in 2 years will be a different landscape than it was a couple of years ago, because of the development on the bluff and all the other things that we've seen and we've brought forward, which our strategic plan, it's in our strategic plan to do that. So I'm really excited about that. But I'm going to add another goal to your list here, because I've seen this in you since we hired you as city manager. You are one of the best problem solvers that I've seen in a long time. I mean, before you even came in, we had 2 big problems on the horizon, and you took care of them right away in a professional way. So you can't put this down as a goal necessarily, because they crop up unannounced, but it's nice to know that you're sitting in the chair that can take care of those. I've seen how you do it before, and I'm going to write a little something about that when we actually do the review. But I think that was one of the big things that I think everybody knows, that you can take care of these problems quickly, and you don't let them get out of hand. So appreciate that.
I will just echo what everyone else has said, to keep it short and sweet. We've only been here, when I say we, the 3 new elected appointees, but in that time span, I agree, you have had some tough waters to navigate, and I think that you have done that professionally as well. So I look forward to filling out this for both you and the city attorney. As stated earlier, I won't be here, but it will be available. If you would like to read yours during that time, please feel free to. But I do look forward to filling it out, because you guys are doing a great job. So thank you.
Well, that comes down to me. So first I want to thank both the city attorney and the city manager for kind of wading into this new territory with us. That I guess 2 of you were part of the council that set this up, but 3 of us were not. It's been a little bit hard for me to get my minds around this. I think for the 2 of you, you were looking for guidance to us a couple of meetings ago, and how do you want us to approach this? And so I would say it's awkward, or been awkward, at least for me, and I think for all of us, to kind of figure out what was intended by a prior council and then to kind of work through it. So I appreciate both of you putting yourself out there too, by putting these goals down. We've had some dialogue, both of you, with all 5 council members. And so I really don't disagree with anything that's said earlier about, particularly the first one, economic development. I just got back from Vancouver last week with Tampa Bay economic development trip. And so the only thing I would share on that is we don't need to put all the responsibility on the city manager for economic development. The 5 of us need to be busting our tails too, to make this happen. This is not her entire responsibility. It's one of the many things that she's tasked to do. We will have an economic development department, and she supervises the department, and she is supposed to make sure that they perform. And we have great opportunity to perform better than what we have in the past in economic development, not just downtown, but city as a whole. And certainly that's an important goal to help lead us through that. A lot of opportunities, not just downtown, but throughout Clearwater. And so I agree with everything that's been said on that. The thing that I've shared, city manager in one-on-one meetings too, and reading back through the charter duties today is, I think the most important role of the city manager is, I think it's the third thing listed in the duties, and that is to hire and manage our 1,800 employees in all our departments. And it's something we are not by charter allowed to have interaction with any of them. That's her assignment. And so is economic development important? Yes, it's important. We've got some great opportunities, but it's not in my mind any more important than the many other departments we have here. Engineering, planning, development, and all of them have opportunities for growth. And so I've shared with her, and I think it's something that kind of overlays all these three, that I think we all want the city to be, and she put this in here, a premier city. And premier in my estimation, means a high-performing city in every category. And how do we know if we're a high-performing city? We benchmark ourselves. We look for ways, how do we compare in every department to other cities, not just across the United States, but around the world. And we want to be the best of the best in every department. And I think a big challenge in doing that is getting to doing what makes sense for local government today, as appears to what made sense 5 years ago. And, part of this economic development trip, we talked a lot about artificial intelligence, how that's going to change the entire workforce throughout the country, not just local government. But it's something that we want to be on the front end of. And the city manager is the best position to make sure that all of our departments, all of our staff, are looking at ways we can get more efficient. Because we also know that with inflation, and we've seen gradual increases in our budget and our expenses every year, and we're dipping into our reserves some this year to balance our budget for the next operating year, which is fine because we've got some one-time costs, but we really need to examine and find efficiencies throughout government, through innovation, to talking about how technology can help us do that. And I believe, I have confidence the city manager is going to lead us towards that, every department. So in addition to these three things, just that, similar to what I think you were saying, Vice Mayor, just to find ways for all of our departments to become more efficient, to do what makes sense today, not keep going with something that maybe made sense 5 years ago, but isn't very practical today. And it's a great challenge because a lot of local governments, including Clearwater, we've had post-pandemic money coming in, we've had property values rising, we've had growing opportunity to spend, and to corral that back in and to anticipate an area where maybe the property values are not rising. It's a great challenge, and that's where, in addition to these three things, that I'd like to see the city manager, and she welcomes that opportunity, and we've talked about opportunities, just off the top of our head just the other day, about ways to do that. But I really want to see our local government, and I think the city manager is the right person to lead us to that, to become a high-performing government. And how we measure that, we compare ourselves to other cities, that we are a leader throughout the country, and how to efficiently and innovatively operate the local government. And that's the only thing I'd like to share other than that. Jumping on the challenges too, the challenges that come up is unfair to point the blame at the city manager for anything that's happened in the last year she's had to fix, particularly the recycling thing that came up a month or so after she took office. That said, we hopefully have learned lessons from that, and she will lead a city government where we're not having many of those problems going forward. And in every department where we've had problems. I think it's unfair to point blame at you for something that you really didn't create. That said, and I know you've already been working on them. Chief Gandy's been working on some things. We've been working through solid waste to work on some things to make sure that we're improving our systems to make sure that those things don't happen again. And we've had a lot of news attention over, wastewater treatment spills and all that. And I can tell the public I'm confident that you and Mr. Slaughter and our team is on top of all these things, and we're going to get better at all of them. But I agree with the vice mayor. You really got thrown some significant challenges early on in your tenure as city manager, and performed admirably the way you handled those, addressed them, and gave the public confidence that you were addressing them. So with that, I guess I've already given my evaluation, kind of. But I'll save that for later. But I did want to add on that overarching goal. Again, I don't disagree with the three that are down. Just that overall arching goal, because it's a unique opportunity for the city manager to have an 1,800-plus employee base to really move this city forward into the next century, and to lead them to do that, and to make Clearwater a leader nationally and internationally in the way we efficiently and innovatively operate our local government, provide value to our citizens and taxpayers. I think that's the most significant opportunity. Okay, anything else? New business then, item 18. Okay, item 19, closing comments by mayor. We had a number of activities, as the city manager said, over the weekend, and one of them I attended was a fishing tournament, which is held twice a year, actually in Clearwater, spring and fall, but for folks with disabilities. It was the adult division this past weekend, Make a Difference Foundation, Fishing Foundation in Clearwater. They have the children's tournament in 3 weeks out at Pier 60, and see how appreciative those folks were, the participants in our entire community, of the city making the pier available for that event, and a good feel-good event for Clearwater and anyone who was there. And so we've got concerts coming up here at the Sound. We've got other activities coming up throughout the city, which will be important to bring the community together. I told somebody the other day that I really think this time of year is my favorite time of year in Clearwater. Nothing against tourists. We love tourists. They help us balance our budget. But it's nice to maybe have not so many of them around this time of year, where we can enjoy our own local festivals and all those things that will be coming up here soon. Talk briefly about my trip to Vancouver with Pinellas Economic Development and Pasco County Economic Development and Hillsborough Economic Development. Mayor Castor, Mayor Welch, and I attended. The chair of the Pasco County Commission attended, Kathleen Starkey, and Kathleen Peters, the chair of the Pinellas County Commission, attended. We visited in Vancouver for several days. We visited some businesses. We visited a university there in Vancouver, University of British Columbia, and they talked a lot about their life sciences industry, their technology industry, how they've become a growth spot and magnet for those industries throughout the world. And we shared ideas, the three counties and definitely the three mayors, on just how we can work together to attract more, particularly the life sciences sector, to Clearwater and to Tampa Bay, and how we can work together as cities and counties in the region to bring opportunities to Tampa Bay. If those cities succeed, we succeed. We know that many folks who work in Clearwater live in those other counties, and those folks in those other counties visit us for numerous things. So it was good to see the entire region working together, because we really do succeed better if we all succeed in the region. So that was my report on my trip. With that, I don't have any other closing comments, and we will adjourn the September 16, 2024 work session of the Clearwater City Council.